Apocalypse begins by collecting S.S.S level cards. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76, Melting Ice and Snow. In this cruel apocalypse, time seems to have lost its meaning. Qin Lang's daily routine, apart from playing games in the Inzarao, is to go to the backyard to see how far the nest core planted has grown. The result disappointed Qin Lang greatly. The growth rate of the nest core was far lower than he expected. Hundreds of corpses were absorbed as nutrients, but it only grew to 2 meters high. It would take at least 2 or 3 months for it to mature. If it weren't for the fact that his combat power level has reached its peak and there are no monsters on the surface that can pose a threat to him, he even wanted to pull out the nest core to see what the dark gold card inside is. There are 2 planting areas in the backyard of the Inzarao. One is used to plant the nest core, and the other is naturally used by him to plant various mushrooms. The mushrooms are growing well, and there are already quite a few in stock in his space ring. After practicing for this period of time, he gradually mastered the main fighting method of the mushroom herder. Mushrooms are another form of ammunition for him. That afternoon, Qin Lang was playing games with Chen Zhu when he suddenly received a telepathic communication from Zhu Yun. "Boss, something happened. Come out and take a look." Qin Lang dropped the controller and rushed out of the small house. He looked up suddenly and saw that the sky was red, as if something was burning. Countless fireballs of different sizes fell and shook the ground violently. What is that? In the fireballs that seemed to destroy the world, someone saw a spherical monster full of pits in the sky. This monster was covered with tentacles, and its body was like a big fireball. It looked down at the earth expressionlessly, and its body was suspended in the air motionlessly. This scene was so similar to the giant face of the monster when the end of the world just came. Time flies so fast. Has it reached the 3rd stage? Qin Lang muttered to himself, and the scene of being tortured in his previous life was vivid, which made him shudder uncontrollably. Boom. A ball of fire hit nearby, blasting a snowmobile into pieces. Fortunately, the people inside had come out to watch the spectacle. "Hey, there's something in the fireball." From the chariot was destroyed by the fireball. Many palm-sized ladybug-like creatures flew out. There seemed to be hundreds of them. They were on fire and rushed to the nearby tattered tent where Zhang Xingxing's group was. "Ah, help. Dang. Dang. Dang." Sun Yan rushed over in one step, swinging the warhammer in his hand continuously, knocking all the ladybugs away. It was obviously a creature, but after being hammered, its body made a sound of steel, which showed that these creatures had strong defensive capabilities. And more. Zhang Xingxing looked at the unicorn creature that emerged from the fire in horror. It was a humanoid monster, burning all over, with red skin, a unicorn in the middle of its forehead, and a hideous and ugly face. The ladybug's combat power is only 200, while this monster has 1200. Someone tested the combat power and reminded him. The monster opened its arms and rushed towards Sun Yan with flames spewing from its mouth. Sun Yan was not panicked at all. First, she put up a shield to block the monster from getting close, and then smashed the monster's head with a hammer. This thing even has magma and is not a carbon-based creature. No matter what kind of creature it is, with a combat power of only 1200, it is as fragile as a blank piece of paper in front of a priest with a combat power of 4200 and a skill talent of frontal chain, fire, demon and fire ladybug. This chapter is not finished. Click on the next chapter to continue reading. Chapter 76, Melting Ice and Snow. Qin Lang said lightly, "The snow will soon melt." The fireball fell for 3 hours. If you stand in the sky and look down at this time, you will find that the whole city is lit by fire, and most of the fire is moving like alive. The snow seems to be melting. Is winter going to pass? Someone found that the ice and snow underfoot began to melt. Tie the vehicles together with chains and hang them on the hut. Qin Lang ordered. Once the snow underfoot melts completely, the first threat to the survivors will be floods. Forget it if the hut is waterproof or not. Who cares? It can even withstand atomic bombs, so why should we be afraid of floods? Qin Lang took the down jacket and put it on. I'm going to hunt. You guys clean up the scattered fire demons nearby and report any situation in time. Qin Lang pointed to his head and only brought Xie and a few students to help him pick up cards. A creature that has just been bred in the third stage basically poses no threat to him, not to mention that it still has the debuff of ice and snow and low temperature, so there is no need to form a group to kill it. It is a complete waste of human resources, so everyone had no objection to Qin Lang's behavior. You guys, follow me, son. Yang pointed to Zhang Xingxing and the other 5 students and asked them to follow her. Zhang Xingxing would never want to go hunting with Sun Yan. She was scared of this Warhammer girl, but there was nothing she could do. They were slaves, and Sun Yan was the master. We've rested for so long, it's time for us to move around. Zhu Yun and Ding Yuan smiled at each other and called a few more students from the 4th level. First, taking students from the 4th level to be slaves to pick up cards seemed to have become the rule of the shelter. Sister-in-law, what do you think? Do you want to go out with me, Leoli asked in a hoarse voice. Lin Wana laughed. Who will go with you? You don't have anyone around you? I don't like fighting, so I'd better stay in Anwu and sleep. Chen Zhu also laughed. Brotherly, you can go hunting, but you must protect the girls around you. I won't join you in this fun. I want to sleep with Sister Wana. Okay, I'll go first. Darlings, come with me to hunt. Great. Go. Kill. Several girls cheered and rushed into the snow chariot with Leoli. Leoli is now a famous playboy in the camp. Several girls from the 3rd class are around him all day long. Leoli has never eaten any good pork. No matter whether you are ugly or beautiful, fat or thin, he will eat them all. As the core of the team, he doesn't worry about resources at all. Of course, Leoli also has a bottom line, which is limited to girls from the 3rd class. The girls in the 4th level are really worthless. They are played with by others in exchange for some resources. Let's go hunting too. Wang Wu stood up and greeted other students. Passing by the 4th level shelter, he looked at the pitiful eyes of the students inside and sighed. Do you want to go with me? If you get a lot, I can share some with you. He couldn't get any sympathy for these former students. Who asked you to team up and treat Sun Yan like that? You have to suffer this fate today. It's your own fault. Kindness and saintliness are 2 different things. Thank you, Teacher Wang. We are willing to go. Chapter 77. The magical uses of mushrooms. The fire rain had just ended, and finding monsters became an extremely simple matter. Less than 5 minutes after Qin Lang drove out, he encountered a small group of monsters covered in fire. In addition to the fire demon and the fire ladybug, there were 2 kinds of monsters in the group. Among the new monsters, one is a fire corpse whose body is on fire, and the other is a little devil with wings that flies in midair and is more than 1 meter tall. Qin Lang knows these 2 monsters very well. There is nothing much to say about the fire corpse. Its combat power is only 140, except for causing burning to close enemies. It is no different from the blood corpse. It can be easily killed with ordinary firearms. It should be noted that little devil, although this little devil is very slow and only flies at a height of 3 or 4 meters, it will spit out fireballs from its mouth for long range attacks. Once hit by such a fireball, the best result is to be disfigured. Force 180. Jiligwa, Q. Z was like a child who was curious about everything. He first tugged on Qin Lang's clothes and then pointed at the group of monsters, meaning there were so many monsters, and he was so scared. Qin Lang stopped the car with a smile, touched the elastic mushroom head, picked up the boy, and faced the monster group head on. This group of fire monsters were affected by the snow on the ground, and both speed and perception were in an extremely low state. Qin Lang almost came to them before he realized that they were enemies. He screamed and rushed forward. Qin Lang calmly took out a fist-sized crystal clear ice mushroom from the space ring and handed it to Qi. Qi looked confused and didn't understand what to do with the mushroom. The next moment, Qi's body was thrown into the air by Qin Lang, and then Qin Lang used a back sweep to sweep his leg firmly on Qi's waist, and then Qi turned into a stream of light with tears in his eyes and plunged into the pile of monsters inside. The moment the ice mushroom came into contact with the monster group, there was a click sound, and a large area of beautiful ice crystals spread out, followed by dozens of monsters being frozen. Well, it's very effective against fire monsters, as expected. Qin Lang was very satisfied with the power of the ice mushroom and pointed his sword far away. The flying sword flew through the monster group and killed all the frozen monsters effortless. As for Mr. Q, half of his body was stuck in the snow and his big watery eyes were full of tears. You think I don't know about letting your kid steal my mushrooms, right? Qin Lang squatted in front of Qzai and smashed Qzai's mushroom cap several times with his fist. Jiligua. Qzai said, I don't dare to do it anymore. When several students saw this, they hurriedly rushed into the pile of monsters to find the cards, and then handed them all to Qin Lang. How dare they have the slightest intention to hide something secretly? Although life is very difficult, they are still alive after all. Is there anything better than living in this world? While Qin Lang's hunting was successful, the 6-man team led by Sun Yan also completed a successful hunting. It is better to say that it is a team of 9 people, but it is better to say that it is a phoenix leading 5 chickens, because except for Sun Yan, the other 5 are slaves of the 4th estate. Sister Yan Yanzi, this is a card. Zhang Xingxing carefully handed the searched card to Sun Yan. Sun Yan put the card away in silence. When Zhang Xingxing saw this, a hint of cunning flashed in his eyes. Just as he was about to leave, a dull voice came from the huge armor in front of him. Do you think I don't know that you secretly hid the card? Zhang Xingxing's body stiffened instantly when she heard this. She turned around, took out the gold card with a flattering look on her face and said, Sister Yanzi, I forgot. I'm here, in my pocket. /U003 bang. A heavy punch hit Zhang Xingxing firmly on the face. The female student flew more than 10 meters on the spot, vomiting blood. Sun Yan slowly came to Zhang Xingxing and said condescendingly, those who hide secrets will die. This is the rule of the shelter. But don't worry, you are my most beloved slave. How can I bear to let you die like this? As he spoke, the sharp end of the long-handled warhammer flashed with golden light, and Zhang Xingxing's bones shrouded in light made a crisp sound as they healed again. Sister Yanzi, I deserve to die. I don't dare to do it anymore. Zhang Xingxing slapped her face wildly. She never wanted to experience the pain that penetrated her bones just now. Sun Yan nodded. Get up and go to the next location. Yes. Zhang Xingxing got up in a hurry. Niu. Yushin, Sun Yan suddenly shouted. Niu Yushin was started and said in a low voice, Sister Yanzi, I heard that you sold your but for a bucket of self-heating hot pot. Niu Yushin, the former sports committee member, one of Sun Yan's waiters, and one of his abusers, his face instantly turned ugly. Why are you doing this? If you don't have enough to eat, why don't you come to me? What I excrete is more nutritious than what you eat. Niu Yushin lowered his head and clenched his fists. Oh, are you trying to do something to me again? Ha 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 ha. You can try it. Sun Yan laughed maniacally under the mask and turned around to leave. If we continue like this, she will kill us sooner or later. Kill her. Must kill her. The 5 slaves looked at each other and rushed towards Sun Yan's back at the same time. It should be night at this time, but the sky and the earth were as bright as day because of the lifeless fireball's strange face in the sky. Qin Lang returned to the shelter and saw Sun Yan sitting on a bench. In front of him were 5 men and women wearing thin clothes and hanging on crosses. No matter how warm it is still more than 20 degrees below zero, and they have not strengthened the relevant talents. How can they bear this? But every time they are about to die, Sun Yan will give them a healing spell to restore their bodies to normal state. You'll have to play for a while. It's not worth using your energy on these people. Qin Lang reminded him and entered An's cabin. Sun Yan thought about it, and it seemed to be the truth. So she broke the hands and feet of the 5 people and threw them into the tent. She said to the soldiers of the 3rd level, I'm a very kind person. Let them be comfortable. I will give you extra food at night. Barbecue or hot pot, you choose. Oh, you are not allowed to die. Don't worry, Sister Yanzi, we are sensible. The soldiers put their arms around each other, yelled, and entered the tent with evil smiles. Soon, heart-rending screams came from the tent. Laoli and Zhu Yun returned one after another not long after, and they both had good harvests. Although they did not seize the color cards, they did have a bunch of gold and silver cards. Boss, I just saw a fireball cave in the north. There were a lot of monsters nearby. I didn't dare to be too wild, so I looked around the outside. I didn't know. Oh my god, my god. There were even monsters with more than 4,000 combat power. There are quite a few of them. Where is that place? Laoli yelled as usual. Qin Lang burst into laughter. It's a good thing you didn't go in, otherwise you would have died very rhythmically. It is a fire nest, and its nature is similar to that of a giant arm nest. If the number of people is too small, it will not be eaten down. Fire rain. Just after it was over, finding monsters became an extremely simple matter. Less than 5 minutes after Qin Lang drove out, he encountered a small group of monsters that were all on fire. In addition to the fire demon and a fire ladybug, there were 2 new monsters in the group. One is a fire corpse whose body is on fire, and the other is a little devil with wings, flying in midair, more than 1 meter high. Qin Lang knows these 2 monsters very well. There is nothing much to say about the fire corpse. Its combat power is only 140, except for causing burning to close enemies. It is no different from the blood corpse. It can be easily killed with ordinary firearms. It should be noted that little devil, although this little devil is very slow and only flies at a height of 3 or 4 meters, it will spit out fireballs from its mouth for long range attacks. Once hit by such a fireball, the best result is to be disfigured. Force 180, Jiligwa, Q. Z was like a child who was curious about everything. He first tugged on Qin Lang's clothes and then pointed at the group of monsters, meaning there were so many monsters, and he was so scared. Qin Lang stopped the car with a smile, touched the elastic mushroom head, picked up the boy, and faced the monster group head on. This group of fire monsters were affected by the snow on the ground, and both speed and perception were in an extremely low state. Qin Lang almost came to them before he realized that they were enemies. He screamed and rushed forward. Qin Lang calmly took out a fist-sized crystal clear ice mushroom from the space ring and handed it to Kize. Kize looked confused and didn't understand what to do with the mushroom. The next moment, Kize's body was thrown into the air by Qin Lang, and then Qin Lang used a back sweep, which was firmly swept on Kize's waist, and then Kize's tears turned into a stream of light and plunged into the pile of monsters inside. The moment the ice mushroom came into contact with the monster group, there was a click sound, and a large area of beautiful ice crystal spread out, followed by dozens of monsters being frozen. Well, it's very effective against fire monsters, as expected. Qin Lang was very satisfied with the power of the ice mushroom and pointed his sword far away. The flying sword flew through the monster group and killed all the frozen monsters effortless. As for Mr. Q, half of his body was stuck in the snow, and his big watery eyes were filled with tears. You think I don't know about letting your kid steal my mushrooms, right, Qin? Lang squatted in front of Qze and smashed Qze's mushroom cap several times with his fist. Jiligwa, Qze said, I don't dare to do it anymore. When several students saw this, they hurriedly rushed into the pile of monsters to find the cards, and then handed them all to Qin Lang. How dare they have the slightest intention to hide something secretly? Although life is very difficult, they are still alive after all. Is there anything better than living in this world? While Qin Lang's hunting was successful, the 6-man team led by Sun Yan also completed a successful hunting. It is better to say that it is a team of 9 people, but it is better to say that it is a phoenix leading 5 chickens, because except for Sun Yan, the other 5 are slaves of the 4th estate, sister Yan Yanzi. This is a card. Zhang Xingxing carefully handed the searched card to Sun Yan. Sun Yan put the card away in silence. When Zhang Xingxing saw this, a hint of cunning flashed in his eyes. Just as he was about to leave, a dull voice came from the huge armor in front of him. Do you think I don't know that you secretly hid the card? Zhang Xingxing's body stiffened instantly when she heard this. She turned around, took out the gold card with a flattering look on her face and said, Sister Yanzi, I forgot. I'm here, in my pocket. /U003 bang. A heavy punch hit Zhang Xingxing firmly on the face. The female student flew more than 10 meters on the spot, vomiting blood. Sun Yan slowly came to Zhang Xingxing and said condescendingly, those who hide secrets will die. This is the rule of the shelter. But don't worry, you are my most beloved slave. How can I bear to let you die like this? As he spoke, the sharp end of the long-handled warhammer flashed with golden light, and Zhang Xingxing's bones shrouded in light made a crisp sound as they healed again. Sister Yanzi, I deserve to die. I won't dare to do it again. Zhang Xingxing slapped her face frantically. She didn't want to experience the pain she felt just now. Sun Yan nodded. Get up and go to the next place. Yes, yes. Zhang Xingxing hurriedly got up. Niu. Yashin, Sun Yan suddenly shouted. Niu Yashin was stunned and said humbly, Sister Yanzi, I heard that you sold your but for a bucket of self-heating hot pot. Niu Yashin, the former sports committee member, one of Sun Yan's pursuers and abusers, suddenly turned ugly. Why are you doing this? If you are not full, why don't you come to me? What I excrete is more nutritious than what you eat. Niu Yashin lowered his head and clenched his fists. Oh, are you going to do it to me again? Ha 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 ha. You can try it. Sun Yan laughed crazily under the mask and turned away. If we continue like this, she will kill us sooner or later. Kill her. We must kill her. The 5 slaves looked at each other and rushed to Sun Yan's back at the same time. It should be night now, but the sky and the earth are as bright as day because of the lifeless fireball monster face in the sky. Qin Lang returned to the shelter and saw Sun Yan sitting on a bench. In front of him were 5 men and women wearing thin clothes and hanging on the cross. Even if it was warm, it was still more than 20 degrees below zero. They had not strengthened their talents, so they could not bear it. But every time they were about to die, Sun Yan would give them a healing spell to restore their bodies to normal. Just play for a while. It's not worth using your energy on these people. Qin Lang reminded them and entered the safe house. Sun Yan thought about it, and it seemed to be the truth. So she broke the 5 people's hands and feet and threw them into the tent and said to the 3rd tier soldiers, I'm a very kind person. Let them feel comfortable. I will give you a snack at night. Barbecue or hot pot. You choose. Oh, don't kill them. Don't worry, Sister Yan. We know our limits. The soldiers hugged each other, shouted and laughed, and entered the tent. Soon, bursts of heart-wrenching screams came from the tent. Old Li and Zhu Yun returned one after another soon after. They had good harvests. Although they didn't seize color cards, they did have a lot of gold and silver cards. Boss, I just saw a fireball cave in the north. There are many monsters nearby. I didn't dare to be too wild, so I looked around. I didn't know until I saw it. Wow, there are even many monsters with more than 4,000 combat power. What kind of place is that? Old Li yelled as usual. Qin Lang laughed out loud. Luckily you didn't go in, otherwise you would have died very rhythmically. That's the fire nest, which is similar in nature to the giant arms nest. If there are too few people, you won't be able to take it down. Chapter 78. Hunting team outside the fire nest. Qin Lang took a sip of beer, wiped his mouth and said, although it is not realistic for our team to clear the fire nest with its current overall strength, it is still possible to clear out the monsters around. Now is the best time. All monsters have a cold debuff. Once this debuff disappears, the difficulty of killing those monsters will increase by at least 1 level. Old Li rubbed his hands, his eyes shining with excitement. Okay, when are we going to the fire nest? I've been so depressed for the past few months. Old Li needs a hearty battle. Zhu Yun and Ding Yuan had no objection to this. I have finally understood that, if you want to survive in the apocalypse, you must hunt. If you hide in one place and eat up all the food, the final result will be either being killed by the apocalypse or being killed by other shelters. There is no third possibility. Since everyone agrees, let's have a good rest tonight. We will set out early tomorrow morning to clean up the periphery of the fire nest. Qin Lang took out a few gold cards and distributed them to everyone. Fire resistance, 1 for each person. Ding Yuan, you are in the front row. Use 2 to avoid being burned. Everyone took the cards and used them, and then had a good meal, and went back to their rooms to rest. No words were spoken all night until the next morning. The 6 core members headed by Qin Lang walked out of the small house and were surprised to find that the snow on the ground was melting faster than they had imagined. The cold and hot air met, forming a large area of steaming fog. The temperature is -14 degrees now. Zuyun looked up at the fireball monster face in the sky. We just experienced severe cold. Will it be hot next? The team is not full of young people like Leoli who have muscles in their heads. You are right. It must be hot. Judging from the temperature in the cold winter, the temperature of hot summer must be at least 42 degrees or above. Qin Lang deliberately lowered it. He remembered very clearly that the temperature in the third stage of the apocalypse was about 45 degrees above zero. If there is no cooling method, let alone killing monsters, you will be dried up in minutes. It's not so hot. I used to work in Guangdong, and the temperature was often over 40 degrees. That day was like a sauna. I would sweat, even if I didn't move. Leoli stepped on the melting snow under his feet and sighed. Brother Qin, how many people are we taking this time? Sun Yan asked. Qin Lang thought for a moment. Even if the monsters outside the fire nest are very strong, if their combat power is less than 1000, they will not be effective in the battle. Just bring some people to help pick up cards, and the others can stay here. Although Qin Lang didn't care about the lives of these people, he didn't want them to die. Sun Yan said, "Oh," and walked towards the 4th tier residential area. Soon, he brought over a dozen shivering students. The girl was led by Zhang Xingxing, and the boy was led by Niu Yushin. Get in the car, let's go. Qin Lang called out, and everyone got in the car one after another. 3 snow vehicles and a military pickup truck, a total of 4 vehicles drove out. As Leoli said, the fire nest is not too far from the shelter, only an hour's drive away. But when the convoy arrived at the scene, everyone was surprised to find that there was another group of people. They had already fought with the monsters in the fire nest, and the number of people was more than 100. Fuck, I thought we were the only ones left in the whole city, but there are still survivors? Leoli rubbed his eyelids, a little unbelievable. Zuyun said, humans are such a fragile and strong race. No matter what kind of environment they are in, they can survive like cockroaches. While a few people were still sighing, the people who were fighting noticed the arrival of the uninvited guests and retreated immediately, looking at everyone with sharp eyes. Ding, ding. Oldly pressed the combat power detector switch. Wow, the combat power is very high. This chapter is not finished yet. Click on the next chapter to continue reading chapter 78. Hunting team outside the fire nest. The lowest, the highest is 3400. Hey, friends in front, we found this place first. If you don't want to see blood, I hope you can leave now and don't affect our hunting. Someone in the team of 100 shouted loudly. You are talking nonsense. I found this place yesterday. How come you found it first? Old Lee was not to be outdone and got out of the car and retorted. The young man who shouted was shocked when he saw the combat power value of Old Lee, 5100. Combat power is almost the same as the boss. What do you mean? Do you have to compete with us? The young man Zio Zenhei said angrily. There are not many survivors in the whole city. There is no need to quarrel. As soon as you meet, if there is any conflict, sit down and talk slowly. Zhu Yun hugged Ding Yuan and came out of the car. The combat power of both of them was about 4. It's not that Qin Lang was reluctant to invest in them, but there was really no suitable card. Hiss. Zio Zenhei took a breath of cold air. 2 monsters with 4 again. If the opponent's core members have a maximum combat power of only 5100, then he is still very confident. After all, the boss is as strong as a god of war and has the ability to fight him. But if the opponent has to help us with 4 combat power, even the boss can't fight 3 alone. What? You mean those elites with hundreds or thousands of combat power, after surviving for so long in the end of the world, doesn't he know whether ordinary firearms are useful for people with thousands of combat power? Wait a minute. Zio Zenhei hurriedly called the boss and reported the situation on the scene. Boss, what should we do now? Wait for me, I'll be there soon. A woman's voice came from the other end of the phone. My boss will soon just be there, and she will talk to you personally. Zio Zenhei shouted. Okay, just wait a minute. We are short of everything except time. Ha 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 ha. Leo Lee laughed loudly, took out a cigarette and started smoking. After waiting for about 20 minutes, a tracked armored vehicle that looked like a tank rumbled onto the scene. Under everyone's admiring gaze, a woman wearing a pink down jacket, a pink bunny ear hat, and a pink sword at her waist emerged from inside. Boss. Boss. Everyone shouted respectfully. This woman, who is only 1.55 meters tall, looks very petite and cute among a group of bulky men, but she also looks out of place. We discovered this place first. What do you think? When a cute girl doesn't open her mouth, it's like a quiet time, with the little bird leaning on her. When he opens his mouth, Qin Lang spits out a big mouthful of coffee and sprays it on the car window. Laoli's eyes were dull. He knew that northerners all had accents, but with such a heavy accent, was it really okay? I'm asking you, Zyangaha, do you want to fight? The woman pinched her waist with sharp eyes. Don't fight and kill each other. As soon as we meet, let's have a good chat. I found this place yesterday. I went back to rest for a day because I was not fully prepared. Now I came here and found that it was occupied by your people and you let us leave. This can't you make sense? Laoli coughed and said with a smile. You said you should discover it first. Where is the evidence? The woman was very domineering. If there is evidence, we can leave. If there is no evidence, what are you talking about? Don't think that your 5100 combat power is great. If you dare to rob, I will kill you. Hey, you are not tall, but you have a loud tone. Why are you so awesome for a little kid? You only have 5 combat power. Who are you trying to scare? Laoli got a little angry. Chapter 79. Hey Cheng Single King Chen Sissy. Who the hell are you calling a gangster? The woman was furious. If you dare, say it again, and you'll be finished if I don't kill you. When the others saw that the woman was angry, they all picked up their weapons. Xiao Zhenhei, the young man next to him, roared and condensed a ball of black fire in his palm. Damn it. Apologize to my boss. Apologize. Hechu. Laoli spit out a mouthful of foam and threw it on the ground. Is it worthy? Grass. The woman's eyes were sharp. She rotated the handle of the knife and made an attack posture. At this time, a voice rang out. There are only a few survivors in the apocalypse, so they start shouting and killing each other when they meet. Do you want to take advantage of the large number of people and bully the small people? It was Qin Lang who spoke. He walked out of the car leisurely. Lin Wana hugged QZ and Chen Zhu followed closely behind. Sun Yan was the last one to come out. There was no way. The face armor was too bulky. The woman raised her lips and was about to speak when Xiao Zhenhei took a sharp breath and said in a trembling voice, Boss, the fighting power of this person is so terrifying. How much did it scare you like this? Chen Sissy looked surprised. Xiao Zhenhei had always been calm and would rarely lose his composure. 99. What the hell? Chen Sissy cursed secretly and sweat instantly broke out in the palm of her hand holding the knife. He and the 3 women behind him also have more than 4000 combat power. Xiao Zhenhei stammered. What on earth do you want to do? Chen Sissy said toughly, but her momentum lost a lot. As the boss of the shelter, she knows better than anyone what 9 combat power means. She had almost been defeated by another shelter boss with 6000 combat power before, but this one was even more outrageous. In the last days, we can't kill all the monsters. It's not as good as half of us. No one should cross the line. Qin Lang said with a smile. As expected of the boss, I accept this proposal. Chen Sissy borrowed the donkey to go down the slope. What do you call a beautiful woman, Chen Sissy? Thinking is thinking. Chen Sissy? Are you the single king of Heicheng? Laoli suddenly interrupted. Chen Sissy was stunned for a moment. What the hell? Have you ever heard of me? That's right. I was a food delivery guy before the end of the world, and I was known as the Heicheng single king. Qin Lang looked confused. Laoli said excitedly. Damn it. I never expected that I can meet my idol here. Qin Lang was even more stunned. Laoli explained to everyone that, in order to make a living before the end of the world, in addition to working as a security guard, he often took driving orders and also worked as a delivery boy for a long time. At that time, there was such a legend in the Heicheng Rider Circle. A man named Chen Sis's female goddess only slept 4 hours a day for 3 consecutive years and ran takeaways the rest of the time. She finally earned 1.02 million, an average of 340,000 a year, 28,000 a month, and 940 a day. Qin Lang cupped his hands and said, I admire you. Chen Sissy felt a little embarrassed. Hey, don't say that. When I was a rider, I did work harder than the average person, but there is a lot of moisture in it. It's all a capitalist routine. Use me as an example to fool newcomers. He is working for them. How can a serious rider earn 1.02 million in 3 years? Only a fool can do it without eating or drinking. Old Lee Hun didn't care. No matter what, it's not easy to meet your former idol. Let's have a drink, if we have the chance, Chen. Sis's eyes suddenly started to glow red as soon as she heard about the drink. Okay, no problem, Qin Lang interrupted the two to reminisce. Miss Chen, are there other shelters in Haicheng? This chapter is not finished yet. Click on the next chapter to continue reading chapter 79. Chen Sisi, the single king of Haicheng. Yes. Chen Sisi nodded repeatedly. In addition to my shelter, there are 2 other shelters, one in the north and one in the northwest. Those 2 shelters are quite close to each other. If you want to exchange some resources or something, I can help. You recommended them. The 2 shelter bosses are my buddies. No problem. Then let's exchange contact information. We should go hunting, so don't delay the business. Certainly. At the moment, Qin Lang exchanged numbers with Chen Sisi. With this line as the boundary, the left side belongs to us, and the right side belongs to you. What do you think, Boskin? Perhaps. To show off her skills, Chen Sisi pulled out her sword and slashed in the air. Laugh. Between the vertical and horizontal sword energy, a ravine half a meter deep spread to a place dozens of meters ahead. Good. Sword energy. Qin Lang clapped his hands and said, that's it. Let's go. Qin Lang waved his hand and followed everyone to the fire nest not far away. Chen Sisi also readjusted the Linoop and headed towards the fire nest again. At a monster lair, there are many monsters at the entrance, with more than 10 varieties, but the ones that can really pose a threat to people are the dozens of them gathered together. The triangular fire demon with 4000 combat power and the mutation with 3 combat power. Fire corpses and other miscellaneous soldiers can be ignored. Woo! Moment Chen Zhu played the violin and the impassioned music sounded. Everyone was blessed with several Bophoras, including attack, defense, speed, recovery ability, resistance, etc. Point as a war priest, Sun Yan does not participate in frontal battles. She is like an iron mountain, guarding in front of Chen Zhu and Lin Wana. Any monster that wants to touch them must first step over her body. After Lin Wana readjusted her talents, her main job at this time was as a sharpshooter. Holding the Timberwolf sniper rifle, he scanned the surroundings vigilantly. Chen Sisi took a look from a distance and praised, it's worthy of being an elite hunting team. Look at their team configuration, how scientific. The rear alone has a ranged buffs, assists, meat shields and long range. We have to learn more in the future. Zhao Zhenhe said indifferently, boss, don't let others' ambitions destroy your own prestige. In my opinion, only the Qin family is terrifying in their team, and the others are just like that. Chen Sisi rolled his eyes at him. Really? Then take a closer look. Does Qin Lang look like he's going to take action? Zhao Zhenhe was stunned, turned his head and looked. His pupils couldn't help but condense. The man with a combat power of 9 in his sight was sitting on a mushroom-shaped bench smoking at this time. Only Lioli, Zhu Yun and Ding Yuan were responsible for the attack. Damn, are you pretending like this? Zhao Zhenhe cursed in a low voice. That's not called pretending, it's called strength. If you have 9 combat power, you can do the same. Chen Sisi snorted. Don't look at it. Prepare to organize an attack and make sure to minimize casualties. Yes, on the other side. Qin Lang really didn't pretend to be pretentious on purpose. He mainly wanted to see what shortcomings the team had in combat as a bystander to facilitate his later optimization point. Besides, he is the boss of the shelter after all. If he has to do everything himself, he might as well be a lone wolf. At this time, Lioli and the lizard-like Ding Yuan had already rushed into the monster group, and the disturbed monsters roared and rushed over. Swish, swish, swish. Blood-patterned guns, spears, and daggers were thrown out continuously. These weapons made a terrifying sound of breaking through the air, turning into beams of light that instantly penetrated the monsters in groups. Chapter 80 Tentacles. The battle broke out directly. The first to attack was Old Lee, who was the core of the barbarians. He threw countless weapons stored in his personal storage space into the monster group like a fairy scattering flowers. causing huge casualties to the monster group. The next to attack was Ding Yuan, who was transformed into a lizardman. The lizardman itself has a strong melee defense ability, and the shimmering scaly skin on the surface of the body is also highly resistant to various toxins and climates, so those monsters with fire all over their bodies can't hurt her at all. She plunged into the monster group and bit and tore it madly. Although the efficiency of killing monsters was relatively low, the viewing level was very high point in this doomsday, where there is an extreme lack of entertainment projects. Who doesn't want to watch a hearty show of 5 horses dismembering corpses? The last to attack was Zhu Yun. Zhu Yun was quite depressed. He was depressed because although the killing vines had the ability to group monsters and control, because the opponent was a fire monster, his wood vines were restrained tightly. He had killed less than a dozen monsters and the vines caught fire one after another, and he had to consume his physical strength again to summon. Qin Lang finished a cigarette, threw the cigarette butt into the snow, and sighed heavily. How can we say the cooperation of these 3 people? We can't say that they fight on their own, we can only say that they are irrelevant. What tacit understanding, what teamwork can't be reflected at all. But Qin Lang knew that this was not their fault. First, there were too few opportunities for several people to fight together, and second, there were really no monsters that were strong enough to require them to join forces. It was about 10 minutes before and after. All the monsters in the area Qin Lang was responsible for were killed, and the gold and silver cards were put into the storage space. If they were not team members without authority, they would have thrown them directly into Qin Lang's storage box. Looking at Chen Sis's side, the difference was not a little bit. In the same time, they fought against almost the same number of monsters, and it was extremely difficult. Facing the attacks of many monsters, the defense line composed of hundreds of people collapsed one after another, and even casualties occurred. Chen Sisi wanted to give remote commands like Qin Lang at first, but then she saw that the situation was not right. If she continued to watch the battle, all her men would die. She had no choice but to join the battle with a small pink sword. It was a pleasure to watch this 155 centimeters tall little mine of the north chop monsters. She used the simplest and most plain moves of chopping, sweeping, picking, stabbing, and cutting to perfection. Chopping monsters was like chopping vegetables. It was just like the saying, the pinker the weapon, the more fierce the chopping. 10 minutes later, Chen Sis's team also completed the hunt after 7 or 8 members were killed. Qin Lang smiled and put his buttocks away. Hey, wait. Chen Sisi pointed to the fire nest not far away in surprise. Is it over? It's so hard to deal with the outside. Don't you want to go in and take a look? Qin Lang shook his head repeatedly. No need. My biggest advantage is that I know what I am. Before I know the combat power of the monsters inside, I can't go in, and I advise you not to go in either. Chen Sisi didn't care. Boskin, I didn't expect you have such a high combat power, but you are so timid. Since you are here, how can you go into the treasure mountain and return empty-handed? If you don't go in, I will lead the brothers to charge. Once you seize any cards, don't be jealous. Qin Lang raised the corner of his mouth. If I were the kind of person who would be jealous, wouldn't it be better to directly destroy your hunting team? If someone else said this, Chen Sisi would definitely jump up and chop people, but when Qin Lang said this, she just felt that it made sense. After all, the combat power of 9 is there. Okay, you said that, then we are ready to go in. Chen Sisi nodded. She was waiting for the team members to collect the spoils. Hey, sister, you'd better listen to our boss's advice. If he says don't go in, you'd better not go in. Our boss has never made a wrong judgment. Laoli walked over and advised. Chen Sisi laughed. Wealth and honor are sought in danger. In this end of the world, if you live in it, you will only lose the opportunity to strengthen yourself. Too wasteful will only end your life in advance. Laoli turned into a great philosopher at this moment. Okay, don't talk too much. I'll drink with you another day. Now you should leave quickly. Chen Sisi glared at Laoli impatiently. Laoli had no choice but to pat his head and leave in a huff. But just after taking 2 steps, a terrifying breath came out of the fire nest, followed by dozens of dark tentacles flying out of the nest and wrapping up more than a dozen people, dragging them into the fire nest, including Zio Zenhei, Chen Sisi and Laoli. Fuck, what the hell is this? Oldly was shocked and used the blood pattern gun to cut the tentacles, but the tentacles were very tough. The blood pattern gun only cut a small hole, and black water like ink flowed out. Fuck. Oldly. Everything happened so suddenly, without any signs, that Qin Lang didn't have time to react. When he came to his senses and wanted to rescue, Oldly and the dozen people had already been swept into the dark cave, and there was no trace. Fuck. Boss. Qin Lang immediately started to communicate with his mind. What's going on? Oldly, are you okay? Oldly was dizzy and woke up after a long time. He looked around. In the extremely dim cave, only a small area in the middle was bright, but what was there, Oldly couldn't see clearly, because there were 3 layers of flames inside and outside, blocking his vision. Oldly, boss, I'm fine, I'm safe now. Qin Lang felt a little relieved after hearing this, but still reminded him not to act rashly, and said, I will find a way to save you immediately. Without Qin Lang's call, Lin Wana and the others rushed over and asked for a solution. They had been together for so long that they had already developed feelings for each other. Boss, let's go in. Zhu Yun clenched his fist. Don't be in a hurry. Qin Lang frowned slightly. Old Zhu, do you smell a conspiracy? Zhu Yun smiled bitterly. Even if I smell it, there is no way. I can only go to the Tiger Mountain knowing that there is a tiger. Can I give up on Lioli? Qin Lang laughed and looked to the other side. The soldiers had already contacted Chen Sisi and Zhao Zhenhei inside the fire nest at this time, and they all gathered at the entrance of the fire nest. Wait. A little longer. Qin Lang was not in a hurry. He kept communicating with Lioli at all times, and told him what happened outside. Lioli was a little confused. Boss, this place is very strange. I remember that I was dragged in with Chen Sisi and more than a dozen people just now, but I'm the only one here. I shouted for a long time but no one paid attention to me. Qin Lang, how could you be the only one? Lioli, really, I'm not lying to you. I'm alone here. I'll take a picture and show it to you. Qin Lang soon received the picture, and looking at the scene in the picture, Qin Lang fell into deep thought. The battle broke out directly. The first to attack was Oldly, who was the core of the barbarians. He threw countless weapons stored in his personal storage space into the monster group like a fairy scattering flowers, causing huge casualties to the monster group. The next to attack was Dingyuan, who was transformed into a lizardman. The lizardman itself has a strong melee defense ability, and the shimmering scaly skin on the surface of the body is also highly resistant to various toxins and climates, so those monsters with fire all over their bodies can't hurt her at all. She plunged into the monster group and bit and tore her madly. Although the efficiency of killing monsters was relatively low, the viewing level was very high. In this doomsday with an extreme lack of entertainment projects, who doesn't want to watch a hearty show of 5 horses dismembering corpses? The last to attack was Zhu Yun. Zhu Yun was quite depressed. He was depressed because although the killing vines had the ability to group monsters and control them, because the opponent was a fire monster, it restrained his wood vines tightly. He had killed less than a dozen monsters and the vines caught fire one after another, and he had to consume his physical strength again to summon them. Qin Lang finished a cigarette, threw the cigarette butt into the snow, and sighed heavily. How can we say the cooperation of these 3 people? It can't be said that they fight alone, but they are irrelevant. What tacit understanding, what teamwork is not reflected at all. But Qin Lang knew that this was not their fault. First, there were too few opportunities for several people to fight together, and second, there were really no monsters that were strong enough to require them to join forces. It was about 10 minutes before and after. All the monsters in the area Qin Lang was responsible for were killed, and the gold and silver cards were collected into the storage space. If they were not team members without authority, they would have thrown them directly into Qin Lang's storage box. Looking at Chen Sisi's side, the difference was not a little bit. In the same time, almost they fought against a large number of monsters, and faced with the attacks of many monsters, the defense line composed of hundreds of people collapsed one after another, and even suffered casualties. Chen Sisi wanted to conduct remote command like Qin Lang at first, but later she saw that the situation was not right. If she continued to watch the battle, her men would die. She had no choice but to join the battle with a small pink sword. Not to mention, this northern little landmine with a height of only 155 centimeters was so pleasing to the eye when she chopped monsters. She used the simplest and most simple moves of chopping, sweeping, picking, stabbing, and cutting to perfection, and chopped monsters like cutting vegetables it is. Just as the saying goes, the pinker the weapon, the more fierce it is. 10 minutes later, S.S.S team also completed the hunt after 7 or 8 members were killed. Qin Lang smiled and put his "but hey, wait." S.S.S pointed to the fire nest not far away in surprise. "Is it over? It took a lot of effort to get the outside done. Don't you want to go in and take a look?" Qin Lang shook his head again and again. "No, my greatest advantage is to be content. Before I know the combat power of the monsters inside, I can't go in, and I advise you not to go in either." S.S.S didn't care. "Boss Qin, I didn't expect you to have such a high combat power, but such a small courage. Now that you are here, how can you return empty-handed? If you don't go in, I will lead the brothers to rush in. Once you seize any cards, don't be jealous." Qin Lang raised the corner of his mouth. "If I were the kind of person who would be jealous, wouldn't it be better to directly destroy your hunting team?" If someone else said this, S.S would definitely jump up and chop people, but when Qin Lang said this, she just felt it made sense. Point after all, the combat power of 9 is there. "Okay, you said this, then we are ready to go in." S.S nodded. She was waiting for the team members to collect the spoils. "Hey, sister, you'd better listen to our boss's advice. If he says don't go in, you'd better not go in. Our boss has never made a wrong judgment." Old Lee walked over and advised. S.S laughed. "Wealth and honor are sought in danger. If you live in this end times, you will only lose the opportunity to strengthen yourself. Too much time will only end your life early." Old Lee turned into a great philosopher at this moment. "Okay, stop talking. I'll drink with you another day. Now you should leave quickly." S.S glared at Old Lee impatiently. Old Lee had no choice but to pat his head and leave in a huff. But just after taking 2 steps, a terrifying breath came out from the fire nest, followed by dozens of pitch black tentacles flying out of the nest and wrapping up more than a dozen people, dragging them into the fire nest, including Zenhei, S.S and Leoli. "Fuck, what the hell is this?" Leoli was shocked and used the blood pattern gun to cut the tentacles, but the tentacles were very tough. The blood pattern gun only cut a small hole when it was cut, and black water like ink flowed out. "Fuck, Leoli." Everything happened so suddenly and without any signs, so Qin Lang didn't have time to react. When he came to his senses and wanted to rescue, Leoli and the dozen people had already been rolled into the dark cave, and there was no trace. "Fuck, boss, Qin." Lang immediately opened the mind to communicate what was going on. "Leoli, are you okay?" Old Lee was knocked dizzy and woke up after a long time. He looked around. In the extremely dim cave, only a small area in the middle was bright, but what was there, Old Lee couldn't see clearly because there were 3 layers of flames inside and outside, blocking his vision. "Old Lee, I'm fine. I'm safe now." Qin Lang felt a little relieved after hearing this, but still reminded him not to act rashly. "I will find a way to save you immediately." Without Qin Lang's call, Lin Wala and others rushed over to ask for a solution. They had been together for so long that they had already developed feelings for each other. "Boss, let's rush in." Zhu Yun clenched his fist. "Don't be in a hurry." Qin Lang frowned slightly. "Old Zhu, do you smell a conspiracy?" Zhu Yun smiled bitterly and said, "Even if I smell it, there is no way. I can only go to the Tiger Mountain knowing that there is a tiger. Can you give up on Old Lee like this?" Qin Lang laughed and looked to the other side. At this time, those soldiers had already contacted S.S and Zenhei inside the fire nest, and they all gathered at the entrance of the fire nest. "Wait a little longer." Qin Lang was not in a hurry and kept communicating with Leoli at all times and told him what happened outside. Leoli was a little confused. "Boss, this place is very strange. I remember that I was dragged in with S.S and a dozen people just now, but I'm the only one here. I shouted for a long time and no one paid attention to me." "Qin Lang, how could you be alone?" "Leoli, really, I'm not lying to you. I'm alone here. I'll take a picture to show you." Soon Qin Lang received the photo, and looking at the scene in the photo, Qin Lang fell into deep thought. Chapter 81 The Horrible Octopus Monster. Qin Lang has actually always had reservations about the function of the dark gold card of Team Glory. There was a particularly important one that he did not tell anyone. That is, as the captain, he could exchange positions with any teammate at any time and place without the consent of his teammates at all point. In other words, if he encounters danger, he can change positions with his teammates, use them as substitutes, and die on his behalf. This is a very cruel and inexplicable ability. Leoli, close your eyes. Ah. What? Qin Lang directly started the change of position. The next second, Qin Lang appeared near the core of the lair, and Leoli came to the position where Qin Lang was standing just now. He looked at his companions with a blank look on his face. Everyone was shocked. Leoli was surprised and said, boss? Question mark? I'm out, but you? Where are you? Qin Lang, don't make any noise, I'm inside. You hurry up and attack the outer layer. Leoli's eyes filled with tears, and he wiped his tears hard to find out about the boss. Inside the core of the fire nest. Qin Lang held his breath and looked at the octopus monster not far away. He did not have the habit of wearing a combat power detector, but he could clearly feel that the monster's aura was increasing. It can be seen that the battles on other levels must be extremely cruel. Don't worry, I won't let you come out. Qin Lang took out a dozen cold ice mushrooms from the space ring and used air control to place them around the firewall. When all the ice mushrooms were placed properly, he slapped the ground with his right palm. Ice blast. This skill comes from the mushroom array under the mushroom shepherd path. Click, 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 click. 16. Ice mushrooms. The moment shattered, and a cold air that swept across the world not only extinguished the flames, but also directly freeze the octopus monster in the blood heart. Next, use explosives. Qin Lang was about to take out the blasting mushrooms when he suddenly felt a chill on his back. He looked up and saw that the octopus monster, which had originally closed its eyes, had opened its eyes at some point. It was a pair of dark, emotionless eyes. Qin Lang was frightened by the stare. How could this thing open its eyes after being frozen? The next moment, something happened that surprised Qin Lang. The octopus, the monster, actually tore open the seemingly thin barrier with one claw and flew out of the blood heart. Its body was suspended in the air, looking down at him. Mature? Qin Lang's heart skipped a beat, but when he saw the missing right leg of the octopus monster, he nodded secretly. He thought too much. It was not a mature body, but was born early because of danger. Since it is not a mature body, I should have the strength to fight. Qin Lang shook his right arm, and the flying sword Yangren was suspended in the air. The octopus monster suddenly widened its eyes, and the more than a dozen tentacles in its mouth stabbed fiercely like springs stretched. Too fast. Qin Lang was so fast that he had no time to react. It hurts. Qin Lang fell heavily to the ground, with 9 wounds on his body, mainly on his arms and chest. The octopus monster in the air was furious and used its tentacles to attack again. Qin Lang had no way to dodge this seemingly simple attack, and he didn't even have the chance to release the holy slash, and could only use the flying sword to protect his face and chest. Puff, puff. The moment the tentacles were attracted, blood flowers shot out from all parts of Qin Lang's body. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82, Hard Fight. In the light point at this moment, the world seemed to fall into deathly silence. Squeak. Ouch. Ouch. At the same time, the monsters that were slaughtering humans wantonly in other folded spaces of the fire nest stopped, attacked, raised their heads one after another, and then they screamed and flew upwards along the spiral staircase-like building on the edge. Chen Sisi was covered in blood and wounds. She wiped the blood off her face randomly. What happened? The top of the fire nest. Qin Lang didn't dare to be careless at all, and quickly ate 2 strength mushrooms and energy mushrooms to replenish his body. It would be false to say that he didn't feel distressed. During his stay in the shelter, the mushrooms he had worked so hard to grow consumed a whole day. Most of it. It's really 3 months of harvesting food and 5 minutes of fighting. Click click. Sudden. There was a violent tremor under the feet, and then countless monsters, large and small, were seen swarming from both sides. They ignored Qin Lang's existence and rushed straight to the place where the octopus monster previously existed. Qin Lang took a breath and saw countless tentacles appearing in the massive decay, pricking the monsters, and the bodies of the monsters that were pricked quickly shriveled up. It is sacrificing these monsters to replenish its own physical strength. You're dreaming. Do you think I will give you time? Qin Lang was really anxious. He controlled the flying sword Yangren and planned to use a few more holy slashes. Unexpectedly, just as he was about to exert his strength, a huge humanoid rat-faced monster suddenly rushed out from the right side and knocked him away. Oh shit. Qin Lang rarely curses unless he can't help it. In just a few seconds, before he flew out, dozens of rat monsters had already gathered in front of him, and the octopus monster, "Go to hell, Qin Lang" roared, and the holy sword came down. Rat monster, they couldn't withstand this level of attack, and instantly turned into pieces of flesh and blood. Ouch. Looking in the direction of the octopus monster, hundreds of monster mummies have been piled up there. It absorbs its kind at a speed beyond imagination. The most annoying thing is that there are a steady stream of monsters rushing up from below to sacrifice themselves. We must get it done quickly, otherwise it will be dangerous. Qin Lang did not dare to be careless at all, and took out all the few mushrooms in stock. The offensive ones were thrown directly into the monster group, and the auxiliary ones were stuffed into his mouth and eaten. If the mushrooms are gone, you can plant them again, but if your life is gone, you are really gone. The power of mushrooms exceeds Qin Lang's expectations, and can often blow up more than a dozen or even dozens of monsters. The absorption speed of the octopus monster attacked by the mushrooms has slowed down a bit, but it's just a little slower. The power of the mushrooms is great, but it cannot withstand the large number of monsters. Some of these monsters sacrificed, while others attacked Qin Lang like crazy. No matter how strong Qin Lang is, he is only one person, and it is difficult to take care of him. The situation is very dangerous. Crash. The most helpless thing for Qin Lang happened. After absorbing a large amount of monster life, the octopus floated back into the air. Its shape seemed to be larger than before, and it was more burly and majestic. Broken Qin Lang's heart trembled. The octopus stretched out his arm and pointed a finger. The black beam hit the flying sword Yangren, who flew back to defend in the next second. A strange force that could not be described in words and could not be resisted knocked Qin Lang away and crashed into the wall behind him. Boom. The wall shattered. Qin Lang fell out and cold air rushed into his mouth and nose. Qin Lang vomited a mouthful of blood and heard Laoli's exclamation in his ears. "Fuck, boss. Brother Qin, holy healing technique." Chapter 83, The Power of Teamwork. It was actually beaten out. It turns out this is facing the chief's room. Qin Lang grinned in pain. If he hadn't recalled the flying sword Yangren in time to block his chest, the blow just now would have penetrated his heart. By then, it is unknown whether the super recovery body will still be useful. As several holy healing spells came down, Qin Lang recovered quickly from his injuries. He looked at the octopus monster flying out of the gap and squinted his eyes. "What the hell, boss? Have you been dueling with this thing just now?" Laoli looked at the data transmitted back from the combat power detector, and his face turned green with fear. 14 combat power, almost 3 times as much as me. How could you last so long? 14. Qin Lang rolled his eyes silently, wondering why he was so strong. At the beginning of the third stage of the apocalypse, he encountered a monster of this level inexplicably. Qin Lang really didn't know whether to cry or laugh. The octopus monster was condescending and slowly approached the crowd. It hovered more than 20 meters away from the crowd, with one hand behind its waist and the other open. Its long 5 fingers condensed a ball of black air. "Quickly spread out, don't use any of its moves forcefully," Qin Lang shouted, and everyone hurriedly retreated around. The tentacle-covered mouth of the octopus revealed a hint of teasing, and the next second, a black air mass shot over, blasting out a large pit with a diameter of more than 10 meters in the snow and a bottomless depth with a bang. The most bizarre thing is that there are black flames that are constantly burning on the edge of the pit. Boom, boom. After the 2 gunshots, there were 2 more bullet holes in the octopus monster, and black juice flowed from the wounds. This made the octopus monster furious. He turned his head and stared at Linwana, leaned forward and flew towards Linwana. "Wana, be careful Leoli," Qin Lang reminded him, and ran towards Linwana. "Got it. Old Lee, I want to eat charcoal grilled squid today." Old Lee took a sip, shook his arms, and a spear appeared in his hand, and he threw it out with a whoosh point. Although the octopus monster has extremely powerful attack power and proud speed, its physical body is not very strong. Otherwise it would not be injured by Linwana's forest wolf point. The octopus monster did not dare to resist the spear thrown by Leoli. It made a strange cry, swept away its tentacles, and rolled up the spear. "I don't have many things, I just have a lot of spears. Let me see how many tentacles you have." Old Lee laughed and kept throwing spears. He had a lot of spare throwing weapons like this in his storage space and couldn't use them all. While Leoli was entangled with the octopus monster, Qin Lang ran to Linwana and controlled the flying sword Yangren to strike. "Murderous vines, bunch!" Zhu Yan shouted loudly, and the vines that appeared in the air tied up the octopus monster's legs and pulled it down hard. The octopus monster immediately fell into the snow. Seeing this, Ding Yuan wanted to pounce on him and bite him, but Qin Lang was in time stop. Faced with such monsters whose combat power is too disparate, it is easy to overturn in close combat. Ouch. The octopus monster tore at the tangled vines frantically, and at this moment, a dazzling light flashed above its head. The holy slash falls. Annihilate everything. The octopus monster in the pit was bloody, but this level of attack was obviously not enough to kill it. The octopus monster was furious and rushed towards Ding Yuan, who was closest to it. Suddenly, a warhammer flew out from the side and knocked the octopus monster over, snapped. As soon as Sun Yan raised her hand, the warhammer returned to her hand, spinning the sacred hammer, which was the exclusive skill of the war priest. "Old Zhu," Qin Lang greeted, and Lao Zhu used the murderous vines again, trying to control the octopus monster again. But unfortunately, with previous experience, the octopus monster no longer escaped and flew out its tentacles to break all the vines. Boom. Another shot point. This chapter is not finished. Click the next chapter to continue reading chapter 83. The power of team. The shot hit the octopus monster between the eyebrows. The octopus monster didn't care about the black water flowing between its brows and opened its hands to hit Linwana fiercely. Boom. A tower shield as tall as one person appeared between the two of them at the right time. The octopus monster kept walking and rushed forward. With a bang, it and Sun Yan flew out. It underestimated Sun Yan, who was on defense because he was afraid of pain. With the defensive capabilities of this tower shield, it would not be a problem to receive more than a dozen rocket launchers. As soon as the dizzy octopus stood up, its feet were entangled in vines, followed by more than a dozen spears that shot through the air. Puff, puff. Black blood continued to shoot out from the octopus monster, and there were more and more wounds on its body. The octopus monster gradually became anxious. "Boss, its combat effectiveness has dropped by 2000 points, only 12. Leoli shouted excitedly. Qin Lang nodded. "No matter how strong it is only alone, but don't be careless and just slowly wear it to death." Qin Lang did not take action again, but patiently commanded and waited for a suitable opportunity to take action. "Old Lee, get out of the way." "Yes, the donkey is rolling." "Wana, retreat to Sun Yan's side." "Now, Lao Zhu, pester it." "Ding Yuan, find an opportunity to give it a paw." This was supposed to be an extremely thrilling bloody battle, but Qin Lang made it look like fighting a boss in a large game. The two sides fought for nearly 10 minutes, and the constantly injured octopus monster's combat power was weakened again, this time directly down to 9500. The octopus monster looked up to the sky and roared in anger and despair. Its fate should not be like this. Why did this group of ant-like existence force it so miserably? Bang, bang bang, swish, swish swish, dang, dang dang. Bullets, spears, and warhammers kept falling on the octopus monster, and the wounds were getting more and more. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that it was dying. "You are strong, but unfortunately, we are stronger. This is the power of the team. Go to hell." Qin Lang finally found an opportunity and launched the holy slash from behind. Wooza. Octopus monster turned his face and looked at the light in despair as it annihilated itself. Plop. The octopus monster, who had lost his head and half of his body, fell heavily, and the black blood dyed the white snow red. Qin Lang looked at the intact team and smiled with relief. Fortunately, he had a strong and trustworthy team, otherwise, it would be impossible to defeat the octopus monster. TSK, 14,000 combat power, but that's all. Laoli, lay down before I even tried. It's so boring, so boring. Laoli was very showy, completely forgetting how embarrassed he was when he escaped just now. Unity is strength. Several people were smiling. Qin Lang walked over and wanted to praise them a few words. Suddenly, the corpse of the octopus monster turned into a ball of gas and drilled into Qin Lang's right hand. Suddenly, a piercing pain spread from his right hand. Qin Lang was so painful that he could hardly stand. Sun Yan treated him immediately, but it was useless. This is not an injury. Qin Lang hugged his right hand and saw that there seemed to be something alive crawling under the skin on the back of his right hand. The pain lasted for half a minute before gradually subsiding. Qin Lang was already sweating profusely and exhausted. Looking at the back of his right hand, he saw a circular totem covering the entire back of his hand. 89 of the totem were blank areas, and the remaining 19 were the heads of octopus monsters. This is Chapter 84, Curse and Touch of Darkness. This skill is too abnormal, it's only level 19. What if it's perfect? Do you get new abilities every time you kill an apostle, or do you improve your abilities? Oldly was amazed. You think too far ahead. The problem now is that I don't know where to find the other 8 apostles. Qin Lang was in a very nice mood. After testing, the existence of the apostle curse obviously has more advantages than disadvantages. It all depends on luck. Let's take a few days off first. Qin Lang paused and said to Lin Wana and Ying Yuan, lend me your vegetable garden for a while. Those fruits have just borne fruit. Lin Wana was a little reluctant. Qin Lang smiled and said, you like to grow vegetables so much, let's do this. Lend it to me for a while. I promise to make you a bigger vegetable garden soon, so that you can grow fruits. Really? You are not allowed to lie to me. Lin Wana's eyes glowed. I swear. Hey, boss, I want to make a wish too. Laoli ran over. What do you want? Qin Lang said happily. Laoli laughed wickedly. Of course I want to become stronger. I can't hold you back, boss, right? Don't worry, I'll share the cards with you after I plant the mushrooms. The card seized from the fire nest has been collected by Qin Lang in the storage space and will be distributed when he is free. Returning to the Enzio hut, Qin Lang pulled out all the plants in the 4 planting areas and planted all mushrooms. This fight consumed all the mushrooms he had stored for more than a month. In the evening, Qin Lang lay on the bed to rest. Laoli suddenly said through telepathy, boss, Chen Sissy just sent me a message saying that she wanted to join our shelter. 003. Qin Lang. Qin Lang was still a little sleepy at first, but now he is not sleepy at all. When did he sit up directly? Laoli, just now. I said that this matter is too big for me to make the decision, and it must be decided by you, boss. Of course. Qin Lang welcomes them. How many people are there? Laoli paused for a few minutes before replying to Chen Sissy, saying that there were more than 30 combatants who had enhanced their cards, and the remaining 100 or so were ordinary people. Qin Lang can send us our location and let her come. Just say that our shelter welcomes her to join. Hello, Laoli. On the other side, there is a shelter hidden among the ruins. Qin Lang agrees that we join. Chen Sissy was overjoyed. Oh my god, this is great. Let the brothers pack their things quickly. Take what you can carry and throw away what you can't. Zio Zenhei repeatedly, and just as he turned to leave, Chen Sissy said, no, the night is long and there are many dreams. Everyone, don't bring anything except the clothes on your body. Let's go to the playground together now. New Zio Zenhei hurriedly called the members of the shelter together. Although I'm not willing to join someone else's shelter, it's still better than dying. Qin Lang is so strong, you can't go wrong by following him. Chen Sissy rubbed her palms excitedly, not noticing that a sparrow landed at the door. The sparrow suddenly uttered a human voice. Chen Sissy, I heard that you killed a lot of people by setting off the fire nest today. I didn't believe it at first. I just looked around and there were only about 30 combatants left. Chen Sissy froze, swallowed and said, "Why? Are you talking about this?" Sparrow said, "Don't be nervous. Join my shadow sanctuary. I have always reserved the position of captain of the third team for you. I need talents like you." Chapter 85 Chen Sissy and Zhang Xingxing. Among them, I have long wanted to escape from the sea of suffering. Now that I have the opportunity, there is no reason not to seize it. Okay, since everyone agrees, let me deploy the strategy. You guys. Zhang Xingxing pointed to a few girls in the corner, responsible for dealing with those smelly men in the nearby cars. You guys, go to Wang Wu's tent and ask them for resources. The louder the noise, the better, to attract their attention. Yashin, Wang Peng and I are going to open An Wu, and when we have strengthened it, we will let you in. Xingxing, you won't leave us alone, right? The girl said weakly. No, I guarantee it with my personality. Moreover, in this apocalypse, someone as strong as Qin Lang needs a team. It will do me no good to betray you. Okay, we believe you. Action. The students of the Fourth Estate immediately took action. Qin Lang's face in the car was gloomy. Because Laoli had lost contact with Chen Sissy 20 minutes ago. They were the kind of people who were having a good conversation and suddenly lost contact. He had an ominous premonition. In fact, he doesn't particularly need a combatant like Chen Sissy who is the icing on the cake, but after the Battle of Fire Nest, it has been proven that Chen Sissy's addition will definitely greatly enhance the overall combat power of the shelter, and its value is no less than 3 color cards. If something happens to this kind of talent, he will definitely feel heartbroken. We'll be there soon. In half an hour. Laoli looked at the coordinates of the shelter. Damn it, Chen Sissy, you have to hold on. Don't let anything go wrong. Half an hour later in the smoke-filled shelter, corpses lay everywhere, and there were traces of battle everywhere. Many familiar faces turned into corpses, including Deputy Zhao Zhenhe. He died miserably, his hands and feet were chopped off, and he was turned into a human pig. The spear pierced his lower body and his throat, and stuck in the snow. Chen Sissy, we are here. Where are you? Old Li shouted at the top of his lungs. But no one responded, except the sound of the wind. Not a single person was alive. Boss, look, this is Chen Sissy's sword. Old Li picked up a broken pink sword. The blade was cracked and rolled. It was done by the shadow shelter. Where is this shelter, Qin Lang's expression was so gloomy that water could drip out. It was not easy to get a batch of fresh blood, but they were killed before they could join. Who can bear this? Not far. Only less than half an hour's drive. Boss, what do you mean? Old Li narrowed his eyes. They dared to touch my people. Go to the shadow shelter. Qin Lang got into the car. 2 snowmobiles drove towards the location of the shadow shelter on the other side. Fuck. This room is so warm. It's like a dream. Zhang Xingxing, Niu Yashin, and Wang Peng successfully opened the Enzyadahat. As soon as they entered the room, they felt warm and comfortable. Hurry up and find the cards separately. Okay. The 3 students entered the room and searched, but the result disappointed them. There were a lot of unfinished snacks and clothes in the room, but there were no cards. They turned over the mattress and didn't find even one. Where does this door lead to? The backyard. Zhang Xingxing frowned, took out the master key, and was about to open the door when Wang Wu's voice suddenly came from behind him. Do you know how miserable your fate will be if Qin Lang knows about this? Chapter 86 Heaven will not destroy me. Zhang Xingxing. Zhang Xingxing's body stiffened, and she turned around tremblingly. A trace of sadness flashed across her yellow face caused by long-term malnutrition, but she immediately knelt down, tears falling down. Teacher Wang, I know I was wrong. I know I shouldn't have done that to Sun Yan, but I have also been punished, haven't I? Please don't tell Qin language. If he knows, I will really die. Zhang Xingxing cried with snot and tears. Teacher Wang, do you still remember when I was punished for smoking in school last year? At that time, you also enlightened me that young people will inevitably make mistakes, as long as they know their mistakes. If you can change, you are a good kid. But why doesn't Sun Yan give me a chance to change? Teacher Wang, you are good. As long as you don't tell Qin Lang, I will do anything. I can help you. Help you. Zhang Xingxing said, and stretched out his hand to pull Wang Wu's pants. Wang Wu was shocked and hurriedly stepped back, his face turning extremely ugly. Zhang Xingxing, look what you have become now. Wang Wu was heartbroken. What made me what I'm now is not thanks to Sun Yan. Do you think I really like serving those stinky men? Teacher Wang, in fact, the person I have always liked is you. But now, I'm no longer worthy. Zhang Xingxing cried and wiped the tears from his eyes. Please help us, and don't tell Qin Lang, okay? Zhang Xingxing's voice alerted Niu Yashin and Wang Peng. They rushed over and found Wang Wu here. They were startled, and their legs became weak. Wang Wu took a deep breath. Don't you know what a powerful person Qin Lang is? Do you think you can really hide it from him? I can intercede for him on your behalf. This is the only thing I can do. Teacher Wang, stop talking and come with me. Wang Wu sighed, feeling both angry and sad. If I had known today, why would I do it in the first place? When you teamed up to bully Sun Yan, did you ever think you would be punished like this? You may really regret it, but you definitely don't regret bullying. I failed Sun Yan, but regretted why I didn't kill her directly. In the middle of Wang Wu's words, he stopped abruptly. He turned his head in disbelief. Blood gushes from his mouth, and Wang Wu fell heavily to the ground. On Wang Wu's neck, there was an extremely sharp thick steel needle. At this time, it had completely penetrated Wang Wu's neck. Who else could have attacked Wang Wu from behind but Zhang Xingxing? Zhang Xingxing ignored the blood on his hands and let out a maniacal laugh. Don't you blame me? Hey, try blaming me again. Ha ha. The whole world blames me? But what's wrong with me? I just hate Sun Yan. What's wrong with that serious look? Why is she good looking, good at studies, and liked by so many boys? Just because her parents are professors, and one of my parents is a prisoner. Miss. Ha ha. Don't give me a chance. If I find a chance, I will still bully her, and I will kill her. Zhang Xingxing stepped on Wang Wu's face, and wiped the blood on his hands randomly. Niu Yashin and Wang Peng on the side were splashed with blood and were frightened. Zhang Xingxing rolled his eyes at the two young followers. Look at how hopeless you are. Why don't you just kill someone? Why, you're not afraid of killing monsters, but you're still afraid of killing people. Niu Yashin and Wang Peng looked at each other, carefully stepped over Wang Wu, and followed Zhang Xingxing. Click. The backyard door opened. Zhang Xingxing and the others walked in, and with a glance, Zhang Xingxing's pupils suddenly narrowed. What comes into view is a huge container 3 meters high, a bit like a tree hole, and a bit like a miniature monster lair. This chapter is not finished yet. Click on the next chapter to continue reading chapter 86. I'm Zhang Xingxing. Countless bones were piled up around him, and hundreds of thick tentacles were stuck on some dry corpses, squirming slightly. What the hell is this? Why do you have to grow something like this in your backyard? Zhang Xingxing felt a chill running down her spine. She bravely walked closer to take a look, and her pupils suddenly lit up. She discovered that in this lair, she could vaguely see a brain-like thing, which contained dark gold cards and several colored cards. Heaven will not perish. I'm Zhang Xingxing. Ha 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 ha. Zhang Xingxing was ecstatic in her heart, but she did not show it. A trace of sinisterness flashed in the corner of her eyes. She stepped back and ordered, did I come to you just to stand there stupidly? Come here. See what valuables are in these corpses. Niu Yashin shrugged and walked over obediently. Wang Peng was a girl with no independent ideas, so she naturally followed Zhang Xingxing's instructions. The two of them came to the corpse pile and started rummaging through it. Zhang Xingxing licked his lips, carefully picked up a thick leg bone, weighed it in his hands, made sure it was heavy enough, and hit Niu Yashin hard on the back of the head. Niu Yashin didn't even have a chance to scream, and fell directly into the pile of bones. Ah, Yashin. Wang Peng was startled, and moved his body backwards with weak legs, begging, Sister Xingxing, don't kill me. I have always been helping you. Zhang Xingxing smiled ferociously. Hey, you think I don't know? You kept saying bad things about me when you were sleeping with those stinky men, and you said you were smoother than me, better at kung fu than me. Eyelines let you be wet. I'll let you be good at kung fu. Yes, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Don't. Ah, boom, 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 After 7 or 8 blows in a row, Wang Peng was already a mess of flesh and blood, and his life or death was uncertain. Those tentacles came over like flies smelling rotten meat, greedily absorbing the fresh flesh and blood from the 2 corpses. /U003CBR /U003E Zhang Xingxing threw away the bone stick, laughed crazily, and moved closer to the core of the nest. However, before she could reach in to take the core of the nest, countless tentacles suddenly paused and then wrapped around her, trapping her in midair. Zhang Xingxing was horrified. She wanted to scream for help, but she couldn't, because the tentacles had madly drilled into all the holes in her body, including her nose, mouth, ears, and lower body. Woo. Zhang Xingxing could only cry helplessly until her 2 eyeballs burst due to internal expansion and died completely. Under the night, snowmobiles came to a shelter with a large enough area. The sentry spotted them immediately, turned on the searchlight, and shouted, "Who are you, wanderers?" Qin Lang got out of the car, stared at the dazzling light, and squinted his eyes. "Where is Chen Sisi?" "Wait. The sentry left not long ago, and brought back several men and women in strange clothes." One of the young men, dressed as a Japanese Ronin with a sword on his waist, said, "Who are you to Chen Sisi? Don't talk nonsense. Is Chen Sisi in your hands? Is she dead or alive?" Old Li has always been irritable, jumping and cursing. "Where did the mad dog come from? Come on, where is the combat power detector? Let's see how much combat power these people have." The Ronin man said with disdain, "Captain 6, you forgot that the batteries are used for heating. The only usable detector is at the boss's place." Captain 6 patted his head. "Hey, I really forgot about this, but it doesn't matter. Since you are in the same group as Chen Sisi, that bitch, then don't leave. I'll use you to practice swords." Chapter 87. Death of Thought. "Take us to practice swordsmanship? What the hell are you?" Laoli wanted to continue spitting out fragrance, but Qin Lang raised his hand to stop him. He took a few steps forward and said, "I have no intention of talking nonsense to you. Hand over Chen Sisi immediately." To be honest, Qin Lang doesn't care about the life and death of the rest of the people. Even if someone like Zhao Zhenhei, who has more than 3,000 people, will die, it is dispensable to him anyway, but he must save a team member with 5,000 people. Captain 6 laughed. "Oh, immediately? What if I refuse? What do you want to do?" The followers behind Captain 6 all started laughing. This kid really thinks of himself as a person. "Who do you want to order?" "Yes, are you lying when you think our 6th captain is a lie?" "Boy, do you know how much combat power our 6th captain has? He is a super strong man with 4,000 combat powers." The 6th captain raised his lips and slowly drew his sword. "If you want to see Chen Sisi, no problem. As long as you can catch me 3 times and survive, I will take you to see her." Qin Lang took a few steps forward without any expression on his face. "I'm really impatient." "Then what?" Captain 6 sneered. "Can you bite me?" Qin Lang opened the 5 fingers of his right hand and said, "Go to hell." Haha, Captain 6 laughed, but the next second he realized something was wrong. With the gift of danger perception, he clearly felt an irresistible terrifying force being released from the man's body, but at this time it was too late to escape, because his body became stiff under the shroud of this terrifying aura. "Open your eyes." Our 6th captain is about to take action. Ha ha ha. Wait for death, boy. A group of young men who did not know whether to live or die were still laughing, but they didn't know that Captain 6's pupils were constricted at this time, and a look of despair appeared in his eyes. No, he finally squeezed out 2 words from between his teeth, and the dark tentacles swept over and turned into a dozen sharp knives to penetrate the body of Captain 6. All laughter stopped at this moment, and the body of the 6th captain was taken into the space ring by Qin Lang at the moment, when he was completely exhausted. With more than 4,000 combat power, it should be quite good to use as fertilizer. For the core of the nest. What happened? Am I dazzled? Why do I seem to see Captain 6 being stabbed to death? How is this possible? The 6th captain is so strong. How could he be killed instantly? Where is the 6th captain? Why are they missing? Even if the facts are before their eyes, no one believes it is true. It wasn't until the dark tentacles bound the bodies of more than 10 people in midair that they realized their fear and begged Qin Lang to let them go. Chen. Sissy, where are you? Are you dead or alive? I said. Chen Sissy was unwilling to join our shelter, which angered the boss. The boss sent her to the playground in a rage. Playground. Men's playground. Veins popped up on my younger brother's forehead. It's been so long. I'm afraid Chen Sissy is dead. No woman can survive an hour in the playground. Bang, bang, bang. More than a dozen balls of blood mist exploded, and Qin Lang only left the man who answered the question. Take me to your so-called playground. Yes, yes. The man was so frightened that his legs became weak. The man led the way, and Qin Lang and his group followed him. Soon everyone came to the entrance of a tunnel that sloped downward. The man tremblingly said, "Brother, this is the entrance to the amusement park. Go in." Yes, yes. This chapter is not finished yet. Click on the next chapter to continue reading chapter 87. Death of Thought. The man took out a flashlight for lighting and walked down for a few minutes. A light appeared at the end, and the woman's extremely shrill scream could be heard through the thick iron door, which was horrifying. This kind of scream caused extreme physical discomfort to the 4 women in the team. "Oh, are you coming to the amusement park so late?" The man guarding the iron gate had a smirk on his face. "I understand. You also want to have a taste of Chen Sissy, right? You probably have to sit in the back row." Chen Sissy is still alive. It's no different from being dead. "Hey, you're a stranger. When will you at?" The man's neck was penetrated, and he died instantly. Qin Lang pushed open the iron door and looked inside. Under the dim light, the iron fences filled with rust and blood released bursts of stench. Behind these iron fences were women who had been tortured to the point of becoming disabled or even unconscious. The ugliest side of human nature is vividly displayed in this playground. "You guys stay here. I'll go find Chen Sissy myself." Qin Lang thought for a while and felt that it would be better not to let the women around him see too many of these things, as it is very easy to become psychologically distorted. "It's okay for us. Our mental endurance is not that weak. You can't be too protective of us," Lin Wana said softly. Qin Lang didn't say anything more and walked all the way to the last room. The room was very lively, with at least dozens of people packed in, accompanied by bursts of obscene words. Qin Lang pushed open the iron door. When he saw what happened inside the house, his mentality was so strong that he almost collapsed, and his scalp went numb. Lin Wana and Chen Zhu, who had sworn not long ago that it didn't matter and had strong mental endurance, rushed to the side and vomited after seeing what happened. Ding Yuan's face was as hen and she hugged Zhu Yun's arm tightly. "Who the hell are you? Do you understand the rules?" Someone yelled angrily. Qin Lang leaves go in and close the iron door. Help. 1 minute later Qin Lang walked out. There was no one alive in the room. They were all dead in a mess. "She was killed by me," Qin Lang said lightly. Everyone nodded. Death is definitely a gift to Chen Sissy, and her experiences have already exceeded the limits of human imagination. "I'm very angry right now. I have to kill someone. This shelter is a living beast. They must be killed. Big brother! Exclamation mark. I will take you to find the boss. I know where he is. Just let me live. I have never done anything bad," begged the man who had led the way earlier. Puff. The tentacle penetrated his head, and the man's body fell to the ground. It doesn't matter whether you have done bad things or not. The important thing is that in this shelter, everyone has to die and all the eggs have to be shaken loose. There is no lofty reason, let alone the so-called justice, kindness or revenge. It is just that Qin Lang simply wants to vent. It's that simple. Deep in the sanctuary, there is a luxurious and warm room. There are many display cabinets around the room, displaying many figurines and collections. The young man held a glass container, looked at the beautiful eyeballs inside, and said with a smile, Sissy, you really can't blame me for this. If you want to blame me, I can only blame you for being ignorant. You said it's good that you obey me. Not only will I make you my woman, but I will also make you the captain of the 3rd division. Now, even your eyeballs have been gouged out. Just because of this, you can have 2 more holes in your body for others to vent. TSK. Old boss. It's not good. A man rolled in and said, something happened. Chapter 88. Follow the same method. Calm down. Calm down. How many times have I told you that, whenever something big happens, you have to be calm? What does it look like to be frizzy? The boy carefully put the glass container into the storage cabinet. What happened? Well wait, let me guess. Was that bitch Chen killed? This is also reasonable. Although she has strengthened her life and recovery abilities, Iron Man can't stand being served by so many men at the same time. No, not boss. There were beads of sweat on the man's forehead. 5 or 6 people came outside, claiming to be Chen-Sis's friends, and they were killing people in the shelter. They killed everyone they saw. Chen-Sis's friend? The young man raised his eyebrows, as if he had thought of something. He slightly raised the corner of his mouth and said sarcastically, oh, I know. This group of people who came should be the guy named Qin Lang, that Chen-Sis said. It is said that his combat power is close to 1/10,000. Haha, it's funny. As powerful as I am, I only have 7,000 combat power. How can there be anyone in this world who is stronger than me? Just let the captains deal with them. I'm sleepy and want to sleep. Boss. The captains are no match for this group of people. The man trembled. The young man was startled. If Leo 6 and Leo 7 can't deal with them, what about Leo 4 and Leo 5? The man said with a tearful voice. The 4th and 5th captains were instantly killed by each other. The 2nd captain and the chief captain saw that the situation was not good and wanted to run away. The other party did not give them a chance and directly stabbed the 2nd captain and the chief captain through. Boss, you think of a way. What the hell? What nonsense are you talking about? Are you sleepwalking? Gang's combat power is 6,700, second only to me, and he is also the Iron Man path, with the best defense in the world. Even rocket launchers can't kill him. He can be killed by others. Seconds? The young man was angry. I think you fucked too many women and your brain has gone bad. Boss, I swear, I didn't lie to you. The captains are really dead. That's enough. This kind of prank is not funny at all. Go out and don't interfere with my viewing. But, boss, go away. The man took a deep breath and just turned around. His body froze on the spot, as if he had turned to stone. The 3 men and 4 women didn't even look at him and just passed by him. Beads of sweat as big as soybeans dripped down his chin. Due to excessive fear, the man's limbs began to twitch. I told you to get out. Why don't you get out? Are you looking for a beating? You, HMM. The young man turned around suddenly and saw 7 men and women who were completely strangers to him. You Kehu? Qin Lang said expressionlessly. Kehu frowned, and a bold thought suddenly came to his mind. Could everything the younger brother said just now be true? Kehu's heart trembled, and he hurriedly grabbed the combat power detector on the sofa. With a beeping sound, Kehu's expression became extremely exciting. None of the 7 people on the opposite side are good. The weakest one has 6,000 combat power, and the strongest man has 9 combat power. But, a dozen dark tentacles emerged from Qin Lang's right hand. Slow. Wait. Who screamed, wait a minute, brothers and sisters, we must have some misunderstanding. Chen-Sisi had planned to seek refuge with me, but she suffered inhuman abuse from you. You told me this was a misunderstanding? Qin Lang smiled, very cruelly. Kehu swallowed and spat. That, brother, I really didn't know she was yours. If I knew, I wouldn't dare to touch her, even if I had 100 courages. But now she's dead. Let's talk about this. It's useless. I will make up for your loss. This chapter is not finished yet. Click on the next chapter to continue reading chapter 88. Follow the same pattern. No? Go on. Seeing that Qin Lang did not take action directly and seemed to have room for change, Kehu became more courageous and said excitedly, Chen-Sisi is just a girl with more than 5,000 combat power, and I have a full 7,000 combat power. Killing her is like killing a chicken. As long as let me go. From this moment on, I, Kehu, will be your little brother. What do you think? I'm super fierce. Qin Lang groaned. I have to say, this is a very tempting proposal. But I have never believed in combat power. Let's do this. If you can catch my 3 moves, I will spare your life and take you as my how is it, little brother? Kehu was overjoyed. Okay, absolutely no problem. Brother, please be gentle. Kehu asked himself that it was impossible to defeat Qin Lang, but if he just took 3 moves, it shouldn't be a big problem. However, before his smile dissipated, he saw a beautiful woman in the 7-person team constantly adding various halos to Qin Lang's body. Brother, this is a bit bullying. The first move. Qin Lang ignored him, opened his right hand, and a dozen tentacles immediately turned into twisted vines and wrapped around Kehu. Qin Lang obviously imitated Zhu Yun's fighting style. Kehu did not dare to be careless and hurriedly rushed back. However, the speed of these tentacles was far faster than him. 2 of them entangled his legs and dragged him down. The other 2 turned into sharp knives and headed towards him. His leg was cut hard. Puff. The 2 thighs were cut off, bleeding like a stream, and the cross-section was as flat as a mirror. K, who was rolling in pain, with snot and tears streaming down his face. Brother, I give up. It hurts. Pain? Qin Lang smiled. Where are you? By the way, how did you treat Chen? Oh, I think woke up. Click. 2 of the tentacles turned into sharp steel needles and swam towards Kehu like snakes. Kehu panicked and said, brother, I was wrong. I was so wrong. For the sake of my minor status, please spare me. I'm still just a child. Child? Qin Lang blinked. Yes. Qin Lang nodded. In the next second, 2 tentacles penetrated Kehu's eyeballs. The barbed steel needle brought out the eyeballs. Aqueous humor and blood flowed billowingly. Kehu's entire face was covered in blood. The screams were horrific. However, Qin Lang had no intention of stopping there. He wants to inflict all the sins that Chen suffered during his lifetime on Kehu. Soon, holes of similar size were punched through both of Kehu's ears, and his nose was also chopped off. In order to make Kehu feel the same, Qin Lang even thoughtfully turned these tentacles into mail tools. It has to be said that Kehu, who has strength and a large number of recovery cards, and has 7,000 combat power, has strong vitality. Qin Lang tortured him for more than an hour before he died. The corpse Qin Lang will naturally not be wasted. Put it in the space ring, which is good nutrition. He's dead. Lin Weiner asked with an ugly expression when she saw Qin Lang coming out of the room. Qin Lang nodded. Yeah. They had left the room an hour ago. They didn't think Qin Lang was cruel at all. It was just a simple physical discomfort. Check to see if there are any fish that had slipped through the net in the camp, and look for a source cards by the way, to make sure nothing is missed. We just looked for it. The cards are all in the storage space. Oh, let's go. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89 Cow Cat. Are you fucking kidding me? Qin Lang lifted the milk cat's neck, his head buzzing. I spent so much time, effort, and so many corpses, but in the end I only managed to cultivate one War 5 cat. Is this reasonable? The milk cat was grabbed by Destiny's neck, and his body immediately stopped moving. You better be useful, or I'll crush you to death. Qin Lang put the milk cat on the ground. The milk cat struggled to stand up, stumbled onto Qin Lang's shoes, and then fell asleep, making a purring sound. Qin Lang was completely speechless inside the house. Wow. Such a cute little cat. Why did you stay in the backyard for so long just to raise cats? Lin Wana and Chen Zhu both couldn't put down the little milk cat, but at the same time they also had doubts in their hearts. Qin Lang had a splitting headache and didn't bother to take off his clothes. He just lay down on the bed and said, I'm very tired now. Let's talk about everything after I wake up. This sleep lasted for a full 24 hours. When Qin Lang opened his eyes again, he saw a huge fat cow cat facing him, with its big chubby face even turning gills. What's going on, Qin? Lang was shocked. The cow cat was very affectionate to Qin Lang and rubbed his chin with its head. Qin Lang, wake up. Lin Wana ran in excitedly and said, this cat is very unusual. I Found it. What good family's cat can grow from 1 pound to 20 pounds in one day and night. Lin Wayne had told Qin Lang everything that happened. After he fell asleep. After Qin Lang fell asleep, the little cat also lay down with Qin Lang and slept next to his pillow. When the two girls saw that the little kitten was only a little big, they didn't dare to touch it, so they just let it sleep. Who knew that they only chatted for a short while, and when they looked back, the kitten had obviously grown bigger, dozens of times faster than the bodybuilding circle. It sleeps as long as you sleep and wakes up 5 minutes earlier than you at most. During this period, no matter how we shake it, it can't wake up. Lin Wana touched the fat cat carefully, and the fat cat was quite respectful, snapping a claw, and a hissing sound came out of its mouth. Lin Wana was wronged. Hey, why are you like this? You can't even touch it. Qin Lang frowned and held the cat's head with one hand. The big fat cat licked his lips and nibbled his claws. All his actions were no different from those of an ordinary house cat. Qin Lang was about to observe carefully, but the fat cat had already pressed down Qin Lang's hand with its furry paws. Although it didn't say anything, Qin Lang understood what it meant. Brother, you have to give me a break sometimes. I'm giving you face, right? Believe it or not, I'll scratch you. Qin Lang's eyes widened and he cursed. Who the hell are you with? Hiss. The big fat cat jumped up, arched its back, erected its ears, and stood up. Are you pretending to be with me, brother? Fuck. Qin Lang was really broken. He was upset that such a thing was bred in the core of the nest, but he didn't expect the big fat cat to have a bad mouth. Who could tolerate it? Qin Lang cursed and went to catch the big fat cat, but the big fat cat ran at an amazing speed, rushed out the door like a whirlwind, and then closed the door with his hand. Qin Lang. Lin Wana, this cat has become a spirit. Fuck, whose cat is this? What is it doing? Laoli's roar came from the yard. Qin Lang ran out and saw Laoli lying on the ground with his arms and legs spread out. The fat cat was squatting next to the hot pot, using its claws to scoop up the meat slices in the hot pot to eat. Chapter 90, The Beginning of Heat. While eating, the big fat cat looked at everyone with provocative eyes, obviously not paying attention to these people. Laoli stood up at this time, secretly opened his hands, and pounced at the fat cat, but the fat cat looked like it had eyes on the back of its head, jumped gracefully, and kicked Laoli's face with its hind legs. Boom. A jaw-dropping scene occurred. Laoli, a barbarian with more than 6,000 combat power, flew backwards on the spot and hit the courtyard wall with his body. Wall damage degree 0478. As the owner of the house, Qin Lang received the reminder from Nzarao immediately. I'm going to kill you. Laoli became angry and had several bloody scratches on his face. The fat cat was not afraid at all. He tilted his head and used his hind legs to scratch his ears. Seeing Laoli conjuring a spear from his hand and throwing it at it, the cat jumped again and flicked his right paw, and the spear was knocked away. This not to mention Laoli, Qin Lang was dumbfounded. Qin Lang took off the combat power detector and put it into the storage space. He knew this thing was unreliable, but he didn't expect it to be so unreliable. You told me this is combat power 5. Okay, Oldly, you can't fight it. Qin Lang shouted to stop Oldly. He finally understood that the fat cat had been playing tricks on them. Meow. Woo woo. The fat cat barked at Qin Lang a few times, and what he heard in Qin Lang's ears was, from today on, I'm the boss of the shelter, and you are all my servants. Ha ha ha. You are not bad, you are quite capable. Meow makes you the chief loyal servant. Okay, loyal servant. Let's have a fight between dragon and tiger tonight. Qin Lang twitched the corner of his mouth and released his tentacles to grab the fat cat. The fat cat's pupils were dilated, and he seemed unwilling to accept the move. He turned around and jumped towards the courtyard wall. Qin Lang had already expected that it would escape, so he turned several tentacles into a large net and volleyed over it in advance. The fat cat was caught in the net and fell to the ground, but it did not panic at all, and even yawned and meowed a few times. Ben. Meow. That is to say, I'm not afraid of you. I just don't want to hurt you. You should try to use this touch of darkness as little as possible in the future. The more you use it, the deeper the curse will be, and the more frequent its attacks will be. Don't blame me for not warning you. Qin Lang frowned and dispersed his tentacles. Do you know about the Apostle's Curse? The fat cat licked his fur and said, not only do you know, I can also help you find 8 other apostles to help you lift the curse. However, you are still too weak now. If you really meet those other apostles, not only will you not be able to, if you kill them, you will die. Of course, this is another form of removing the curse. Qin Lang came to Shamao and squatted down. Who are you? The fat cat washed his face with his paw, paused and said, I only know that you are my chief loyal servant. I don't know anything else. After saying that, Shamao jumped on Qin Lang's shoulder. I'm hungry and want to eat some meat, barbecue, or hot pot. Casual. Qin Lang looked helpless, but since the fat cat was not hostile to him, and was so powerful, the previous depression disappeared. At least his work was not in vain. Outside the shelter it had been several days since the flame monster appeared in the sky. The temperature had risen sharply. The snow on the ground was decreasing at a speed visible to the naked eye, forming a river and flowing downwards. If Qin Lang hadn't asked everyone to connect the vehicle to Anzao in advance, I'm afraid even the car would have been swept away. Where are the trays? Qin Lang looked around and found that more than 30 students from the 4th level were missing. Linwana explains this chapter is not finished yet. Click on the next chapter to continue reading chapter 90. The hot beginning, she said. The swallow took them away last night and they went to an unknown place. Qin Lang nodded and didn't ask any more questions. Sun Yan has a strong ability to protect herself, and her methods are cruel and perverted. Those students may not end well. But this has nothing to do with him. A bunch of traitors. Let's just die. The most pity was that Wang Wu, who had enhanced many cards after all, was killed by a sneak attack. Much later, Qin Lang was cooking barbecue in person, and Sun Yan came back with a group of lost students. These students seemed to have had their souls sucked away. Their eyes were dull. Brother Qin, you're awake. Sun Yan took off her helmet and showed a bright smile. Qin Lang turned over the snowflake beef and asked casually, what did you do to them? Why are you so scared, Sun Yan smiled and said, it's nothing. I just dismantled a few leaders in front of them. It took a day and a night. Oh. Qin Lang nodded. This is a wonderful way to separate the characters. You came back just in time to eat meat. Good. Sun Yan took a large piece of beef and took a big bite. Brother Qin, your craftsmanship is great. Come on, whatever is necessary. Qin Lang invited everyone to come over and taste the craftsmanship. Sun Yan held the meat in her mouth and took out some green food cards from her arms and threw them to the students. The group of students were stunned and they all knelt down and kowtowed in thanks and then carefully went to get the food. You said Sun Yan, a little girl, is young and her methods are ruthless. She more becomes and more evil as she gets more and more evil. Look at those people, don't they seem to have been brainwashed? Laoli clicked his tongue. Qin Lang didn't take it seriously. Yanzi is a talent, let alone this is the end of the world. The order has collapsed. Even in peaceful times, there is only kindness and kindness cannot make a ruler. These are just necessary means. You are the boss. What you said is right. Laoli eats like Zhu Beiji eats ginseng fruit. 3 or 2 bites of a large piece of meat. Lao Li, what? Take care of yourself. Qin Lang had a wicked smile on his face. Old Li chuckled. Who do you look down on? Just those girls. I can beat them with my hands. During the period of waiting for the snow to melt completely, the shelter gained unprecedented peace. During this period, there were several more fireballs and card rains. Qin Lang led the team out hunting once. He originally wanted to take this opportunity to see how strong Zio Heli was. Who knew that this big fat cat didn't do anything at all, just lay on Q's head and covered his head to sleep. When Qin Lang had killed almost all the monsters, it rushed over to open the monster's head and take out the card. Time passed slowly, and half a month passed unknowingly. The snow had melted. Instead, it was replaced by high temperatures day and night. The highest daytime temperature soared all the way to 45 degrees. People who were exposed to the sun felt dizzy and had heat stroke in minutes. Fortunately, the night temperature was not too abnormal, but it was also 35 or 6 degrees in Zhao main control room. It's so comfortable. This is called living. Qin Lang was lying in a huge portable bathtub, watching a movie with the air conditioner on. Lin Wana, Chen Zhu and Sun Yan were also bathing together, wearing swimsuits, and each of them had an ice cream of a different color in their hands. Since the temperature soared, Qin Lang and the three ladies' bodies have never been dry. Meow. In a corner of the swimming pool, the fat cat Zhao Hei made a comfortable groan, while Qze below spit out a mouthful of bath water and got out of the water, his eyes full of happiness and joy. Chapter 91. Guests started waiting patiently. Soon the iron door, to guard against gentlemen and villains, opened. Leoli hugged two round-figured bikini female students and greeted them with a smile. Oh, the survivors in Hangzhou are just asking for a drink of water. Find a place to escape the heat. Yes. Boss Yan nodded. Leoli clicked on the combat power detector, scanned the crowd, and then passed the data to Qin Lang through spiritual communication. The leader has 6600 combat power, the deputy has 4700, and the others have between 1000 and 3000. Well, let them in. Come in. Li waved his hand and told the girls next to him, go to the warehouse and get some water cards. You two have been so good these past few days. I'll reward you with ice cream. Don't take too much. Be careful to get a bad stomach. Maximum 3 for each person. Thank you, brother Li. Brother Li, you are the best. The two female students jumped away, and when they came back, there were more than 100 white water cards in their hands. Here. Leoli handed the water card to Boss Yan. Boss Yan hurriedly thanked him. Thank you very much. What do you call this shelter? They all call me Leoli. Well, I have the final say in this area. Li raised his hand and drew a circle. Mr. Yang nodded and started chatting with repeatedly Mr. Li while distributing water cards to everyone. Leoli is a person who is good at talking. He immediately started chatting and chatted with Boss Yan. Why are you going to the ancient city? Leoli was curious. The ancient city, named Heidu Ancient City, is located in the north of Heicheng and is a small county town, 34 kilometers away from here. It was a pretty good tourist city before the end of the world, with mountains and seas, but he didn't know what it looked like now. Boss Yan hesitated for a moment and said, I shouldn't have told you this, but since you are so kind to us, brotherly, I don't want to deceive you. This is the information I got from a colored card, saying that there is a treasure in the ancient city. Treasure? Is it true or not? I don't have much education. Don't fool me. Old Li shouted. To be honest, I don't know whether it is true or not. I have to go and see it to know. Can you let me take a look at the colored card? This Boss Yan smiled bitterly. It seems inconvenient. Hey, blame me. It's a bit presumptuous. Well, you guys take a rest. If you need anything, just tell me. By the way, this is for you to cool down. Boss Yan took out a big blue mushroom from the storage space and handed it to Boss Yan. What is this? Boss Yan's eyes lit up. He clearly felt the chill contained in the big blue mushroom. It was icy and comfortable in his hands. Thank you, brotherly. You're welcome. I'll borrow it for you. I'll take it back later. By the way, you can't eat it. You can only use it to cool down. Old Li waved his hand, went back to the swimming pool, and soaked his body in it, and relayed the information about the ancient city treasure to Qin Lang in full. Old Li, I think he is fooling me. We have got a lot of color cards, so where are the treasure cards? Qin Lang, you haven't seen it, but it doesn't mean there are none. He shouldn't be fooling, but whether it is a treasure or not, now we have to question it. In Qin Lang's memory, as time goes by in the end of the world, there will indeed be information cards including treasures, nests, props and other locations, but he was too weak in his previous life, and was not qualified to participate in the competition for these treasures. Chapter 92. Summer Seafood Buffet. So, why don't we go take a look at this treasure? It's too boring to stay in the shelter all day long. Leoli is very interested in this. In fact, not only Leoli, but also Zhu Yun and Ying Yuan had the same idea. The life in the shelter was indeed comfortable and happy, but this was the end of the world after all. There was no telling what bad weather or monsters were waiting for them next. They would have nothing to lose in the end. The only result is to be eliminated in the apocalypse. There is no second possibility. I definitely want to go, but at least I have to confirm first what the information on that colorful card is. There are some things Qin Lang didn't say, that is, information such as treasures, lairs, and props, and the corresponding monster strengths are also different. The most difficult one is the cave, followed by the lair. Treasures, props, etc. must be arranged at the back. This is not easy, I will talk about it later. Laoli had everything covered. He had already figured out how to get information out of Boss Yan. He called the two girls over and whispered in their ears on the other side of the shelter. In the shadows with the ice mushroom constantly releasing cold air, the heat has been dissipated to a great extent. The current air temperature is around 38 or 39. ZHU Chenke secretly put away the combat power detector and lowered his voice and said, "Boss, this oldie has a relatively high combat power, with 7,000. The rest are just fish, and there are not many with more than 2,000. Do we want him, boss?" Yan shook the bottomed water bottle, drank the water at the bottom of the bottle, and wiped his mouth. ZHU, they kindly entertained us with water and lent us big mushrooms to escape the heat. Is it right to repay kindness with hatred? Boss, we have come all the way. ZHU Chenke hesitated to speak. Point, mister. Yan smiled and shook his head. They are different in nature. Among the boss shelters who were slaughtered by us, which one was not a pervert to the core of evil? If you look here again, except for the dozens of young people over there, the expressions on the faces of the others, the expressions are freedom, comfort, ease, and respect. Even if we have the ability, we must not kill it. There are no laws or rules in the last days, but we must have a bottom line in our hearts. I know I was wrong, boss. Mr. Yan smiled and patted ZHU Chenke on the shoulder. You're right, you're just too young. Okay, let's get some rest. We still have to travel in the evening. It's so comfortable here. I want to stay here for a few more days. ZHU Chenke was a little reluctant, but he had nothing to do. Boss Yan closed his eyes and placed one hand on the ice mushroom. Little did he know that, if he had said even one wrong word just now, this trip to the end of the world would have ended prematurely. You really kind, or did you find a bug in the ice mushroom? Let me wait and see. Qin Lang turned around and entered the house with a smile. It was night in a blink of an eye. A neat dining table was set up in the area of the shelter near An's cabin. Boss Yan curiously took a bite of the crispy noodles and asked what he was doing. The soldier from the shelter pointed to a sign not far away, which clearly stated it says, "Summer Seafood Buffet. This is our meal for today," the soldier said, and continued his work. Boss Yan was stunned on the spot, staring at the 7 words on the blackboard. Strangeness, very and extremely strange. He knew each of these 7 words separately, but when put together, he was really confused. Brother, this is the end of the world. The end of the world. You eat so well, right? Sick. The thing that made Boss Yan and the others shout fuck was yet to come. The first thing they brought out was a large bucket of summer relieving mung bean soup mixed with a lot of ice cubes. It was packed in a metal round pot like the canteen. Next came 3 large barrels of ice cream packages with 3 flavors, strawberry, taro, and original. They were steaming with air conditioning. Finally, dozens of seafood boats appeared, including arctic clams, ice shrimps, scallops, king crabs, and salmon. Every ingredient was fresh and tender. As for the fruits after the meal, they are a bit simpler. There are only iced watermelon, bayberry, peach, durian, and banana platter, which looks like 7 or 8 kinds in total. Everyone was dumbfounded. ZHU Chenke wiped the tears from the corner of his mouth and said, "Boss, I want to eat." Boss Yan said angrily, "Looking at your little fortune, do you think I don't want to eat? Damn it, how rich is this shelter? Hey, Boss Lee is here. Be careful with your image. Don't be invited, just rush in and eat, making people laugh." As soon as Boss Yan finished reminding him, Laoli came over. He threw a cigarette to Boss Yan, lit it for him and said, "Boss Yan, what are you talking about? We're ready for dinner, you guys. We have food." "Brotherly, you are too polite. How can you be so embarrassed?" "Oh, no, what I mean is that we have dinner. Why don't you go on your way at night, so it can be cooler? Look, I have prepared the water card for you." "Boss, Yan froze on the spot and the corners of his mouth twitched. Zhu Chenke in the back almost cried with anger. How can you entertain guests like this? Why don't you be polite and let us pretend to refuse? Not even a step up. Is that ridiculous? Boss Yan swallowed. His face was hot, and he murmured, "Oh, that's it. Then we'll leave. Thank you. Thank you. Why are you so polite?" Laoli put a familiar hand on Boss Yan's shoulder. "By the way, Lao Yan, I'm quite interested in the ancient city treasure you mentioned. I really want to chat with you while eating. But when I think about it, this is your way to make money. I'm really embarrassed to force you. As the saying goes, you are a gentleman. In short, be careful on the road, and wish you success." "Hey, wait." Boss Yan was not a fool. He quickly grabbed Laoli's arm and said, "Brotherly, I just want to talk to you about the treasures of the ancient city, to thank you for your hospitality. How about we chat while eating?" Li smiled brightly. "What are you waiting for? Let the brothers come over and eat. Let's see how hungry they are." "Boss." Yan raised his hand excitedly, and dozens of people ran and jumped towards the self-service area, stuffing whatever they caught into their mouths. What quality, what kind of self-cultivation, what kind of image are important to eating well and having a good time? Seeing this scene in front of everyone, they couldn't help but shake their heads. Even the lowest level student party members sneered at it. They even think that being a slave in a shelter is better than this group of nomads who dares to believe that they actually have someone to despise. These brothers and sisters of mine have suffered too much with me, and I will definitely make up for these. Mr. Yan trembled in an imposing manner, but he could only force his smile. Laoli generously patted him on the shoulder. "Don't say that. By the way, what's going on with that treasure in the ancient city? Then, why don't we go take a look at this treasure? It's too boring to stay in the shelter all day long." Laoli is very interested in this. In fact, not only Laoli, but also Zhu Yun and Ing Yuan had the same idea. The life in the shelter was indeed comfortable and happy, but this was the end of the world after all. There was no telling what bad weather or monsters were waiting for them next. They would have nothing to lose in the end. The only result is to be eliminated in the apocalypse. There is no second possibility. I definitely want to go, but at least I have to confirm first what the information on that colorful card is. There are some things Qin Lang didn't say, that is, information such as treasures, lairs, and props, and the corresponding monster strengths are also different. The most difficult one is the cave, followed by the lair. Treasures, props, etc. must be arranged at the back. This is not easy. I will talk about it later. Laoli had everything covered. He had already figured out how to get information out of Boss Yan. He called the two girls over and whispered in their ears on the other side of the shelter. In the shadows, with the ice mushroom constantly releasing cold air, the heat has been dissipated to a great extent. The current air temperature is around 38 or 39. Zhu Chenke secretly put away the combat power detector and lowered his voice and said, "Boss, this oldie has a relatively high combat power with 7,000. The rest are just fish, and there are not many with more than 2,000. Do we want him, boss?" Yan shook the bottomed water bottle, drank the water at the bottom of the bottle, and wiped his mouth. "Zhu, they kindly entertained us with water and lent us big mushrooms to escape the heat. Is it right to repay kindness with hatred? Boss, we have come all the way." Zhu Chenke hesitated to speak. Boss Yan smiled and shook his head. "They are different in nature. Among the shelter bosses we slaughtered, which one was not a pervert to the core of his evil nature? If you look here again, except for the dozens of young people over there, the expressions on the faces of the rest of them are. The expressions are freedom, comfort, ease, and respect. Even if we have the ability, we must not kill it. There are no laws or rules in the last days, but we must have a bottom line in our hearts. I know I was wrong, boss, Mr. Yan smiled and patted Zhu Chenke on the shoulder. "You're right, you're just too young. Okay, let's get some rest. We still have to travel in the evening. It's so comfortable here. I want to stay here for a few more days." Zhu Chenke was a little reluctant, but he had nothing to do. Boss Yan closed his eyes and placed one hand on the ice mushroom point. Little did he know that if he had said even one wrong word just now, this trip to the end of the world would have ended prematurely. Are you really kind, or did you find a bug in the ice mushroom? Let me wait and see. Qin Lang turned around and entered the house with a smile. It was night in a blink of an eye. A neat dining table was set up in the area of the shelter near An's cabin. Boss Yan curiously took a bite of the crispy noodles and asked what he was doing. The soldier from the shelter pointed to a sign not far away, which clearly stated it says, "Summer Seafood Buffet. This is our meal for today," the soldier said, and continued his work. Boss Yan was stunned on the spot, staring at the 7 words on the blackboard. Strangeness, very and extremely strange. He knew each of these 7 words separately, but when put together, he was really confused. Brother, this is the end of the world. The end of the world. You eat so well, right? Sick. The thing that made Boss Yan and the others shout fuck was still to come. The first thing they brought out was a large bucket of summer relieving mung bean soup mixed with a lot of ice cubes. It was packed in a metal round pot like the canteen. Next came 3 large barrels of ice cream packages with 3 flavors: strawberry, taro, and original. They were steaming with air conditioning. Finally, dozens of seafood boats appeared, including Arctic clams, ice shrimps, scallops, king crabs, and salmon. Every ingredient was fresh and tender. As for the fruits after the meal, they are a bit simpler. There are only iced watermelon, bayberry, peach, durian, and banana platter, which looks like 7 or 8 kinds in total. Everyone was dumbfounded. Zhu Chenke wiped the tears from the corner of his mouth and said, "Boss, I want to eat." Boss Yan said angrily, "Look at your little achievement. Do you think I don't want to eat? Damn, how rich is this shelter? Hey, Boss Lee is here. Pay attention to your image. Don't rush up to eat as soon as you are invited, and let people laugh at you. Just." As Boss Yan finished reminding, Leo Lee came over. He threw a cigarette to Boss Yan, lit it for him, and said, "Boss Yan, well, we are ready to eat. We have food." "Brother Lee, you are too polite. How can you do this?" "Oh, no, I mean, we are ready to eat. Do you want to take advantage of the night to travel, so that you can cool down a little? Look, I have prepared water cards for you, boss." Yan froze on the spot, his mouth twitching. Zhu Chenke behind him almost cried with anger. "How can you entertain guests like this? You should at least be polite and let us pretend to refuse. You don't even give us a way out. Is it reasonable?" Boss Yan swallowed his saliva. His old face was burning, and he murmured, "Oh, so, then, let's leave. Thank you, thank you. You're welcome." Old Lee put his hand on Boss Yan's shoulder and said, "By the way, Old Yan, I'm quite interested in the ancient city treasure you mentioned. I really want to talk to you while eating. But when I think of this as your way to make money, I'm really embarrassed to force you. As the saying goes, a gentleman or something. Anyway, be careful on the road. I wish you success." "Hey, wait, boss." Yan is not a fool, and hurriedly grabbed Old Lee's arm. "Brother Lee, I just want to talk to you about the ancient city treasure, to thank you for your hospitality. How about we eat and talk?" Old Lee smiled brightly. "What are you waiting for? Let the brothers come over to eat. Look at them, 1 or 2, how hungry they are, boss." Yan raised his hand excitedly, and dozens of people ran and jumped to the self-service area, stuffing whatever they caught into their mouths. Are quality, cultivation, and image more important than eating well? Everyone couldn't help shaking their heads when they saw this scene. Even the lowest level students sneered at it. They even felt that being a slave in the shelter was better than this group of nomads who would have believed that they actually had someone to despise. "My brothers and sisters have suffered too much with me. I will definitely make up for it." Old Yan trembled with anger, but could only force his smile. Old Lee patted him on the shoulder generously. "Don't say that. By the way, what is the ancient city treasure?" Chapter 93, A Diary. "This the fat cat." He scratched the floor with his paw. You're so stupid. This will alarm." Fat cat He dived into the ruins without waiting for Qin Lang's reply. Qin Lang looked helpless. Cats are indeed the most unorganized and undisciplined animals in the world, even if they are mutated. In comparison, the portable bench Q-boy is cuter. After searching for more than half an hour, Zuyun used murderous vines to lift up a large boulder and found the be careful. The strength of cave monsters is usually several times, or even 10 times, that of surface monsters. After Qin Lang reminded him, he raised the shiny ice mushroom in his hand and walked away. First point. After a few minutes, everyone arrived at the cave smoothly. Point in comparison, this place is much more eerie than the mushroom cave. Except for the lighting equipment in hand, everything is pitch black. Point. Zuyun threw out more than a dozen cold fireworks and flares, and then the darkness was dispelled. Hey, what is that? A house? Someone lives here. Ding. Yuan raised her hand and pointed, and there were actually some houses standing 100 meters away. Point. Upon closer inspection, I found that these were indeed houses, and there were obvious signs of human habitation. The cans have dried. Have the people here left or died? Qin Lang murmured to himself, lighting with ice mushrooms, and suddenly the pillow on the bed behind him. When I opened the dusty diary, I saw the delicate handwriting. Point. The owner should be a girl. It's easy to forget time and the end of the world. I can't remember how many days it has been in the end of the world. Today, the boss took us out hunting and killed a lot of blood corpses. We had a big meal today with instant noodles and canned food, which was really delicious. It's a pity that Uncle Song was bitten and there is no serum. He is destined to leave us. Strange, I can't cry. Maybe I have seen too many deaths and have become numb. Obviously, this is a diary written in the early days of the end of the world. Point. Qin Lang didn't have the patience to read it word by word, so he turned directly to the last page of the diary. Point. Compared with the beautiful handwriting at the beginning, the words at this time are very sloppy. It is not difficult to see that the owner of the diary is very embarrassed. It's snowing. The temperature is getting lower and lower, and more than a dozen people have been frozen to death. I don't know when the snow will stop. Jiu Ting couldn't stand this kind of life and committed suicide. TSK, so fragile. She finally survived until now, but she committed suicide. I despise her. Something big happened in the shelter today. The second in command went out hunting for 3 days and 3 nights and didn't come back. He must have died outside. The boss was very sad and built a simple tomb for him. By the way, the food tonight is good. I love to eat banquets. It's so cold. Too cold. The temperature has reached -50 degrees, but everyone has become younger because they have been frozen into grandchildren. I can't believe that I have survived this long winter, but I have a very ominous premonition that the end of the world will not end so easily. Is the fire monster in the sky foreshadowing that the temperature will become very high next? The ice and snow are melting. The temperature is rising. It's so comfortable. I'm going to die of heat. Fuck. Chapter 94. Qin Lang vs the 5-man group. Just when Qin Lang was reading the diary with gusto, Zuyun made a discovery. Qin Lang put the diary into the storage space and walked over. Under the light of the ice mushroom, large areas of dried blood appeared on the wall. This amount of blood loss probably did not belong to one person. At least 7 or 8 people must have been killed in this room. Zuyun made a judgment. In other words, the residents of this underground shelter suffered a massacre and did not leave normally. In order to escape the scorching heat, building a shelter in a hole in the ground is like drinking poison to quench thirst. Qin Lang withdrew his gaze and said, "Keep looking and see if there are any other clues. If not, let's go forward and meet the guy in the cave for a while." After everyone dispersed, Qin Lang sat on the bed, took out the diary again and started reading. Today, the boss discovered a cave. It's a really good place. The temperature is only 35 degrees. Although it's very dark, it's better than being roasted and fucked on the surface. Today is the 7th day since the boss moved the shelter into the cave. Everything is fine. Wang Lily never told me that she could dance. I don't know why she went crazy last night, but she danced ballet in the room. Today is the 10th day since we moved into the cave. I obviously feel something is wrong, but I can't tell exactly what is wrong. I have to ask the boss to take us out of this hellish place. The boss rejected my proposal, and no one else is willing to leave. What can I do? I'm just a rookie with less than 2000 combat power. I can't survive alone on the surface. Wang Lily is dead. The boss is dead. Wang Meng is dead. They are all dead. Haha. Haha haha. Me. I'm going to die too. Haha haha. This is the last page of the diary. The scrawled handwriting and the extremely crazy narrative style made Qin Lang a little shocked. Looking at the diary penetrated by the pen tip, Qin Lang frowned. What on earth did they go through? Unusual. What does this abnormality mean? Something happened coming. Be careful. Zhao Hei didn't know when he appeared at his feet. He sniffed the air and nervously jumped onto Qin Lang's shoulders. The black and white hair on his body exploded and looked very fluffy. Is the opponent strong? Qin Lang also became alert. I don't know, but in short, not weak. Zhao Hei arched his body and made a fighting posture. Qin Lang quickly notified everyone to come and gather, but a strange scene happened. No matter how he communicated with his mind, no one responded except Laoli in the shelter. It's broken. Something happened. Qin Lang's heart thumped, and he hurriedly took out the flying sword Yangren and rushed out of the room to look for traces of other people. Meow. Zhao Hei suddenly screamed. Qin Lang turned around and saw a dozen thick vines growing out of the void and beating them down wildly. This is clearly Zhu Yun's murderous vine. Qin Lang quickly retreated and controlled the flying sword Yangren to make a horizontal slash. After the vines were cut off and disappeared, he saw 5 familiar faces: Zhu Yun, Ding Yun, Lin Weiner, Chen Zhu, Sun Yan. What is different from usual's that their pupils are all dark. Mind control? The monsters here are good at mental attacks. Qin Lang thought of the only possibility. Hiss. Ding Yun, who transformed into a lizard man, had already rushed towards him. Under her feet, there were many colorful halos. This chapter is not finished yet. Click on the next chapter to continue reading chapter 94. Qin Lang vs. Group of 5 all come from Chenzhou. Puff. Qin Lang's shoulder was penetrated by a bullet, and the heartbreaking pain made him shiver. Bang. Bang. Bang bang. More and more bullets were fired from Lin Weiner's gun. At such a close distance, Lin Weiner was a marksman. He couldn't dodge, even if he wanted to, so he could only use his dark tentacles to turn into shields for defense. Although he could defend himself against bullets, he could not defend himself against the double attacks from Zhu Yun and Ding Yun, one close and one far away. Almost in a short moment, Qin Lang fell into an unprecedented hard battle. He has the ability to kill anyone instantly, but he can't use it. These are his closest teammates and closest partners. Is it possible to kill them? Stunning them is not an option, but he must have this ability. It can't be done. Qin Lang threw a rat weapon, but the 5-man team on the opposite side was full of firepower, using all kinds of random skills at him, as if they were free. Qin Lang tried to knock Lin Weiner out first, but was knocked away by Sun Yan with a hammer. Damn it. Mental protection. How could I ignore this? Qin Lang regrets that his intestines are about to break. He has a lot of related protective cards, but he has never used them for everyone. He is mainly worried that their combat power will be too high and will cause a burden. Now it seems that he underestimates the 3rd stage of the apocalyptic cave. The monster inside. But you really can't blame him. In his previous life, Qin Lang was just a terminal worker in the apocalypse, a leftover from a shelter. How could he be exposed to such a dangerous place? He had cognitive issues. To get everyone back to normal, there are usually 2 ways. The first is to also choose mental attacks to forcibly break up the opponent's attacks. Unfortunately, Qin Lang did not master the relevant skills and could only give up. The second kind is to kill the existence that releases the mental attack. To catch the thief, first catch the leader. In this way, everyone will naturally recover. Mental attacks have a common feature, that is, the caster must be nearby. The closer the distance, the stronger the effect, otherwise it will be weaker. Zhao Hei, can you find it? I need you to remind me. I have been trying to lock it, but it keeps moving and doesn't give me a chance. It moves left and right, and I can't lock it at all. Just point me in a specific direction. Hurry up. Qin Lang was almost numb by the 5 little strong men. Fortunately, he had the touch of darkness and amazing defense. Otherwise, he would be half dead if he encountered such a situation. Over there. Zhao Hei raised his paw and pointed in a direction. Qin Lang directly slashed with a holy slash. The dazzling light instantly enveloped a large area. Through this layer of light, Qin Lang saw the creature in the dark. The monster was not big, only about 1 meter long. At first glance, it was somewhat similar to the bee crocodile he had encountered in another cave before, but if you look closely, you will find that it is another species, more like a chameleon, with a black body and only white eyeballs. Found. You, Qin Lang's eyes lit up, and just as he was about to release the second holy slash, his right arm was suddenly entangled by vines. The next moment, vines grew out of the void, wrapping Qin Lang's entire body in 3 layers. Leozu, you are so fucking annoying. Qin Lang couldn't help but curse. He seemed to be wrapped in vines and in danger, but in fact he was not in any danger at all, because there was another layer of black eggshell-like protection on his body surface, which came from the touch of darkness. What should I do if I can't kill the chameleon at all when they are entangled with me? Qin Lang fell into deep thought. Chapter 95. The cave is so wide! Exclamation mark. Qin Lang soon discovered a breakthrough. Although the 5-person team controlled by the mind was aggressive, they did not have the wisdom that humans should have. That is, the ability to adapt to changes. They would only use their strongest skills to attack him simply and crudely. Just like now, he is obviously trapped by the murderous vines, and the 5-man team's offensive still shows no sign of stopping. The most direct consequence of this is that more than 90% of damage falls on the murderous vines, and Zhu Yun, after repeatedly using the murderous vine for the first time, his body showed obvious signs of weakness. It seems that I have fallen into a misunderstanding. To deal with them, it is actually very simple. Just insist on defense and tire them out. They can't break through my dark touch defense anyway. Thinking of this, Qin Lang seemed to have taken reassurance and simply crossed his legs and sat on the ground. No matter how strong your physical strength is, how long can you last? Facts have proved that Qin Lang's strategy was successful. After less than 15 minutes of defense, the offensive of the 5-man team came to a complete halt. Everyone's body was soaked with sweat and they lay on the ground unable to get up. Without exception, they collapsed from exhaustion. Bitch. It's my turn this time. You've been controlling 5 people for so long. Are you tired? Qin Lang looked at the black chameleon. The black chameleon sensed something was wrong, turned around and disappeared into the darkness. But Qin Lang had no intention of letting it go. He first used the holy sword to light up the road ahead, and then threw several ice mushrooms in succession. The chameleon is indeed very fast, but don't forget that the ice mushroom deals area damage. When the 5th ice mushroom exploded, the chameleon didn't have time to dodge, and his body was immediately frozen. It tried its best to break free from the frozen state, but the flying sword Yangren not far away has already slashed over. Die. Puff. The chameleon's head was chopped off, and its body fell from the rock wall. Qin Lang rushed forward and put away the colorful cards in the chameleon's head before Ziohei. Ziohei showed a hint of embarrassment on his fat face and began to pretend to wash his face. Qin Lang chuckled and returned to the area where the 5-man team was. Strange. What's wrong with me? Why do I feel so tired? Did I fall asleep? I feel the same as you. I'm so exhausted that I want to vomit. Brother. Qin. What happened? What happened to us? What happened to us? Qin Lang smiled and threw a monitoring mushroom. Want to know what happened? Please watch VCR. 10 minutes later, the 5 people who watched the entire battle had embarrassment written all over their faces. But if you think about it carefully, you can't really blame us for this. Ding Yuan whispered. Boss, you are responsible for our card construction. If you don't give us mental protection cards, what can we do? That's right. Zhu Yun tapped his palm. Boss, this is your mistake. Qin Lang was angry, but he was too lazy to defend himself. He gave everyone a few mental protection gold cards. As soon as you feel a tingling sensation in your head, notify others quickly. Mental attacks are one of the most bizarre attacks. I know, but boss, why aren't you controlled? I'm on the path of a key master, and I'm very resistant to mental attacks. Everyone looked like that point. After resting for a moment and regaining their strength, everyone continued to move forward. Just as Qin Lang guessed, there are not only this chapter is not finished yet. Click on the next chapter to continue reading chapter 95. Is the cave so fat? Exclamation mark. A single chameleon, a dozen in total. Since it lost its main attack method of mind control, Chameleon's threat to everyone was negligible, and it was easily killed by a few people. With reached the end of the cave chest, Qin Lang kicked the treasure box and heard a click. The moment the box was opened, a dark gold card appeared. Hey, this dark gold is the core card of someone in our team. Qin Lang glanced at it and finally flew the card to Zhu Yun with a smile. For me. Zhu Yun was overjoyed. You are a druid, and this dark gold is a transformation spell, a violent giant bear. If I don't give it to you, how can I use it, boss? Zhu Yun was so excited that she burst into tears. Hurry up and learn it. But Zhu Yun tore the dark gold card into pieces. After successfully practicing, his body swayed and transformed into a huge 3-meter tall brown bear. It could reach 5 or 6 meters tall. When it stood up, it was definitely a behemoth. Let me see how much the combat power has increased. Oh, not bad, not bad. Qin Lang nodded. Congratulations to Leo Zhu for becoming our team's second 9,000 combat power. Zhu Yun, let's go. Come up, I'll carry you out. I feel like I'm full of strength now. Leo Li is very anxious, aren't you? What good things did you get? Do you want to rush me to death every day? Qin Lang, you will know when we go back. Qin Lang waved his hand and said, let's go. The 5 people jumped on the back of the bear, and the giant bear carried them all the way. The speed was many times faster than the car, and it returned to the surface in the blink of an eye. Brother Zhu, how long can you last when you turn into a bear? This leap was so good I didn't even want to ride in the car. Not only Lin Wana, but the other 3 women all felt the same way. The fur on the back of the giant bear was very soft and felt great when rubbed. If Zhu Yun doesn't fight, it can last for several hours, but if he fights, it may only take more than 10 minutes. Since sister-in-law doesn't want to take the car, then I, old Zhu, will carry you back! Exclamation mark. Old Li, you really make me anxious to death. If this happens again next time, I will never stay behind. It's too damn torturous. Early morning. Boss Yan looked regretful. Since you don't want to go, then I won't force you. Thank you Brother Li for taking care of us. I hope we can meet again one day. It must be. Boss Yan, I wish you a lot of money in this treasure hunt. If you fail, it doesn't matter. Come back to the shelter. We can't say that we can have fish and meat every day, but at least we can have enough ice cream and mung bean soup. Old Li patted his chest. Boss Yan was so moved that he almost cried. He bowed his hands and said, thank you for your kindness. We are leaving. Goodbye. I won't see you off. The door of our shelter is always open to friends. Goodbye. Old Li waved his hands and watched everyone go away until they disappeared at the end of the road. Just go. You even took my ice mushrooms. Qin Lang suddenly appeared behind Old Li and said faintly, there is no such thing as a free lunch in the world. Boss, what the hell did you get? I'm so anxious. Nothing. Qin Lang's expression was calm. It's just a dark gold and 7 or 8 color cards. That's all. Fuck. Old Li opened his mouth in an O shape. Is this cave so fat? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96, No Retreat. There is a colored card that can enhance your attack power. I have thrown it into your box. You can use it yourself. There are also some gold cards and silver cards. As for what else is missing, you can just ask me to get it when the time comes. Qin Lang took a deep breath and said, I've been tired all night, so I'm going to go back to sleep. Thank you, boss. I'm willing to give my heart to the boss. Leo Li saluted with a bang. Recently, he always hangs out with young schoolgirls and reads a lot of comics from ancient times under their influence when he has nothing to do. Qin Lang was indeed a little tired and fell asleep as soon as his head hit the pillow. At the same time, Boss Yan's team arrived at the entrance of the cave at noon. When he saw the vehicles parked nearby, an ominous premonition arose in his heart. Isn't it possible that someone got there first? Hurry down and take a look, boss. Yan screamed and rushed down with others 2 hours later. Boss Yan's face was as hen as he sat slumped at the entrance of the cave. Not to mention the color cards and gold cards. The other party didn't even leave a single blue or green card. Boss, think on the bright side. We have at least got 2 cars. ZHU Chenke really didn't know how to persuade him. What should we do next? Boss Yan had a splitting headache and pressed his temples hard. Go back to find Boss Lee. At least we can survive in their shelter. ZHU Chenke hesitated and said, Boss, although Boss Lee is a good person, can he allow us to live here for a long time? We won't know until we talk about it after we go back. The first goal is to survive first, boss. Yan really couldn't think of any other way, so he asked everyone to go back the same way. It took me a long time to go back and forth. It was already dark by the time Boss Yan and the others returned to the shelter. Laoli, who had expected that they would come back, naturally received them very warmly. After hearing that they planned to live in a shelter temporarily, Laoli first expressed his welcome and then expressed his worries. Although my shelter still has some inventory, it's only enough to support us for a month or 2. Suddenly there are dozens more mouths, and resources are suddenly tight. Laoli said with a tangled expression. This way, well, let's organize a joint hunt in the next few days to get more cards and optimize the organizational structure. Of course, Laoli didn't say this last sentence, he just said it silently in his heart. The shelter does not support idlers. This is a rule set by Qin Lang early on. Everyone must have the value of existence. Even the lowest group of students. They at least give other classes of warriors emotional value and vent their primitive desires value. Okay, I'll be at your disposal, Boss Lee, at any time. Boss Yan patted his chest hard. Under night, everyone gathered in the courtyard of An's house. Qin Lang unfolded a hand-drawn map, which came from the Lawless brothers. At first glance, the 2 brothers seemed to be transparent people in the shelter with little value. In fact, they played a very important role. They could not only stand guard to prevent the shelter from being attacked. After learning the cartographer series cards given to them by Qin Lang, he even became a professional cartographer. With the shelter as the center, wherever there are more monsters and lairs within a radius of 20 kilometers are clearly marked on the map. Laoli, you take them to build a small fire nest tomorrow. Qin Lang pointed to an area marked with a red horn on the map. The strength of the monsters outside the small fire nest is between 2,000 and 4,000. As long as you don't go in, you will have no problem protecting yourself with your current personal strength. Laoli picked his teeth and said, Boss, you are too conservative. Why did you choose this small fire nest? Isn't it better to just attack the big one? Except for Boss Yan and the one named ZHU Chenke, among this group of people, they are not bad. The others are dead. It doesn't matter if you don't die. People have just taken refuge with us, so they can't risk their lives. They'll be successful if they die 3 or 4 times. Don't be too ruthless in your work. Zhu Yun paused. Also, the boss of the fire nest is going to take a few of us to fight in person. What? You won't let me play with you again? Laoli was unhappy. Boss, are you so kind to others? I, Laoli, did something wrong. Tell me, I can change it. You can't exclude me or isolate me. Me. Qin Lang laughed and scolded. Go. Who has nothing to do to squeeze you out? Isn't it inconvenient for us to show up? Besides, I can't be in the shelter forever. If one day I go hunting in a distant place, the shelter must be there. Isn't there a deputy team who can carry the banner? Laoli scratched his head and said, hey, I'll be relieved then. Go. And have a rest early, Qin Lang waved his hand and everyone dispersed. 2 days later, 2 hunting teams set off from the refuge point. The hunting team led by Laoli brought with them Brother Lawless, Lin Mo, more than 30 soldiers, and more than 50 people under Boss Yan. Those student party members who had no fighting ability were left in the shelter. On Qin Lang's side, he brought a cat, a mushroom, and a team of 5 people. At noon, the sun was scorching hot and the temperature reached a terrifying 45 degrees above 0. Qin Lang appeared shirtless and wearing a pair of beach shorts near the fire nest. The 5 people behind him were dressed similarly to him. The 4 women were all wearing bikinis, which were eye-catching and sexy. Zhu Yun wore a pair of flashy beach shorts. The upper body is a short-sleeved shirt. It shouldn't be a big problem to clear out those on the outside. You just need to be careful about the big monsters inside. Qin Lang put down the military telescope and said to everyone, "Do it." Zhu Yun clenched his fists loudly, his eyes filled with a strong desire to fight. "Let's do it." Qin Lang waved his hand, and Zhu Yun immediately transformed into a violent giant bear, roaring and charging into the monster group. Zhu Yun, who was infinitely close to having a combat power of 1, killed hordes of monsters with an invincible appearance. Regardless of whether they were fire demons, fire zombies, or little devils, any monster that he poked would have only one fate, either to be turned into powder or to be killed. Broken bones. The dark gold card is so damn powerful. Qin Lang clicked his tongue. If it weren't for the fact that he had too many core cards to cultivate, it wouldn't be a bad idea to learn a Mad Bear transformation. The other side led by Laoli. The battle was extremely fierce. Two sides exchanged fire for less than 10 minutes, and more than a dozen soldiers were injured and killed. Even with the two high-powered beings Yan Boss and ZHU Chen-K at the front, they still could not alleviate the offensive encountered by their companions at the rear. Facing the attacks of hordes of fire demons and fire zombies, the 100-man regiment behind them retreated steadily. The weather is too hot, and these monsters can't survive the group damage. Bosley, why don't we retreat? Boss Yan felt extremely distressed. Most of the people killed in the battle were his companions. Retreat? There is no such word as retreat in my dictionary. Laoli yelled, "Hit me hard. Anyone who dares to retreat will be killed without mercy." There is a color card that can enhance your attack. Lee, I have thrown it into your box. You can use it yourself. There are also some gold cards and silver cards. As for what else is missing, you can just ask me to get it when the time comes. Qin Lang took a deep breath and said, "I've been tired all night, so I'm going to go back to sleep. Thank you, boss. I'm willing to give my heart to the boss." Laoli saluted with a bang. Recently, he always hangs out with young schoolgirls and reads a lot of comics from ancient times under their influence when he has nothing to do. Qin Lang was indeed a little tired and fell asleep as soon as his head hit the pillow. At the same time, Boss Yan's team arrived at the entrance of the cave at noon. When he saw the vehicles parked nearby, an ominous premonition arose in his heart. Isn't it possible that someone got there first? Hurry down and take a look. Boss Yan screamed and rushed down with others. 2 hours later, Boss Yan's face was as hen as he sat slumped at the entrance of the cave. Not to mention the color cards and gold cards. The other party didn't even leave a single blue or green card. "Boss, think on the bright side. We have at least got 2 cars." ZHU Chen-K really didn't know how to persuade him. What should we do next? Boss Yan had a splitting headache and pressed his temples hard. Go back to find Bosley. At least we can survive in their shelter. ZHU Chen-K hesitated and said, "Boss, although Bosley is a good person, can he allow us to live here for a long time? We won't know until we talk about it after we go back. The first goal is to survive first, boss." Yan really couldn't think of any other way, so he asked everyone to go back the same way. It took me a long time to go back and forth. It was already dark by the time Boss Yan and the others returned to the shelter. Laoli, who had expected that they would come back, naturally received them very warmly. After hearing that they planned to live in a shelter temporarily, Laoli first expressed his welcome and then expressed his worries. "Although my shelter still has some inventory, it's only enough to support us for a month or two. Suddenly there are dozens more mouths, and resources are suddenly tight." Laoli said with a tangled expression. "This way, well, let's organize a joint hunt in the next few days to get more cards and optimize the organizational structure." Of course, Laoli didn't say this last sentence, he just said it silently in his heart. The shelter does not support idlers. This is a rule set by Qin Lang early on. Everyone must have the value of existence. Even the lowest group of students. They at least give other classes of warriors emotional value and vent their primitive desires value. "Okay, I'll be at your disposal, Bosley, at any time, boss." Yang patted his chest hard. Under night, everyone gathered in the courtyard of An's house. Qin Lang unfolded a hand-drawn map, which came from the Lawless brothers. At first glance, the two brothers seemed to be transparent people in the shelter with little value. In fact, they play a very important role. They can not only stand guard and prevent the shelter from being attacked, After learning the cartographer series cards given to them by Qin Lang, he even became a professional cartographer. With the shelter as the center, wherever there are more monsters and lairs within a radius of 20 kilometers are clearly marked on the map. Lee, you take them to build a small fire nest tomorrow. Qin Lang pointed to an area marked with a red horn on the map. The strength of the monsters outside the small fire nest is between 2,000 and 4,000. As long as you don't go in, you will have no problem protecting yourself with your current personal strength. Lee picked his teeth and said, "Boss, you are too conservative. Why did you choose this small fire nest? Isn't it better to just fight the big one?" Except for Boss Yan and the one named SYNOPSIS. Among this group of people, they are not bad. The others are dead. It doesn't matter if you don't die. People have just come to us, so they can't risk their lives. They'll be successful if they die 3 or 4 times. Don't be too ruthless in your work. Zhu Yun paused. Also, the boss of the fire nest is going to take a few of us to fight in person. What? You won't let me play with you again? Lee was unhappy. Boss, are you treating one favorably and favoring another? Lee, did something wrong. Tell me, I can change it. You can't exclude me or isolate me. Qin Lang laughed and scolded. Go. Who has nothing to do to squeeze you out? Isn't it inconvenient for us to show up? Besides, I can't be in the shelter forever. If one day I go hunting in a distant place, the shelter must be there. Isn't there a deputy team who can carry the banner? Lee scratched his head and said, "Hey, I'll be relieved then. Go and have a rest early." Qin Lang waved his hand and everyone dispersed. 2 days later, 2 hunting teams set off from the refuge. The hunting team led by Lee brought with them Brother Lawless, Lin Mo, more than 30 soldiers, and more than 50 people under Boss Yan. Those student party members who had no fighting ability were left in the shelter on Qin Lang's side. He brought a cat, a mushroom, and a team of 5 people. At noon, the sun was scorching hot and the temperature reached a terrifying 45 degrees above 0. Qin Lang appeared shirtless and wearing a pair of beach shorts near the fire nest. The 5 people behind him were dressed similarly to him. The 4 women were all wearing bikinis, which were eye-catching and sexy. Zhu Yun wore a pair of flashy beach shorts. The upper body is a short-sleeved shirt. It shouldn't be a big problem to clear out those on the outside. You just need to be careful about the big monsters inside. Qin Lang put down the military telescope and said to everyone, "Do it." Zhu Yun clenched his fists loudly, his eyes filled with a strong desire to fight. "Let's do it." Qin Lang waved his hand, and Zhu Yun immediately transformed into a violent giant bear, roaring and charging into the monster group. Zhu Yun, who was infinitely close to having a combat power of 1, killed hordes of monsters with an invincible appearance. Regardless of whether they were fire demons, fire zombies, or little devils, any monster that he poked would have only one fate, either to be turned into powder or to be killed. Broken bones. The dark gold card is so damn powerful. Qin Lang clicked his tongue. If it weren't for the fact that he had too many core cards to cultivate, it wouldn't be a bad idea to learn a mad bear transformation. The other side led by Lee. The battle was extremely fierce. The 2 sides exchanged fire for less than 10 minutes, and more than a dozen soldiers were injured and killed. Even with the 2 high-powered beings Yan Boss and SYNOPSIS at the front, they still could not alleviate the offensive encountered by their companions at the rear facing the attacks of hordes of fire demons and fire zombies. The 100-man regiment behind them retreated steadily. The weather is too hot, and these monsters can't survive the group damage. Bossly, why don't we retreat? Boss Yan felt extremely. Most of the people killed in the battle were his companions. Retreat? There is no such word as retreat in my dictionary. Lee yelled, "Hit me hard. Anyone who dares to retreat will be killed without mercy." Chapter 97, Scavengers and the Mysterious Team. Frightened by Leole's terrifying fighting power, the 100-man army dared not act, even if they really had the idea of escaping, and could only bite the bullet and fight the monsters. As the battlefield continued to advance forward, the battle became more and more intense, and casualties were inevitable. "We really can't fight anymore. There are too many monsters." Boss Yan was so anxious that tears came out. At this time, half of the brothers he brought with him had been killed, and a small number of them were burned and unable to continue fighting. In other words, after fighting for less than half an hour, only a dozen elite soldiers of more than 50 people remained fully combat ready. Laoli obviously also noticed this situation, nodded and said, "Retire for the time being, rescue the wounded, I'll take over here." After saying that, Laoli took out a spear, a blood mark gun and other weapons from the storage space, and threw them at the monster group. Boss Yan glanced at Laoli in his busy schedule, and his pupils couldn't help but condense. The monsters that the 100-man army had to spend a lot of effort to kill were like paper to Laoli. One spear could often penetrate 5 or 6 monsters. What was even more outrageous was that he strung the blue mushrooms that could cool down some of the spears. When they fell into the monster group, the mushrooms exploded, and more than a dozen monsters were instantly frozen into ice cubes. Hundreds of monsters had no time to get close to Laoli, and he easily and happily dealt with them alone. You obviously have the ability to kill monsters. Why do you let your brothers die? Are you doing this on purpose? Zhu Chenkei was a young man after all, and he didn't think before he spoke, and he roared at Laoli directly. Laoli's neck tilted, and he came to Zhu Chenkei, grabbed his neck, and sprayed spit on his face. "What the hell did you say? Say it again, if you have the guts. Brother Lee. Brother Lee. He is still a child, don't bother with him." Boss Yan hurriedly acted as a peacemaker, and hugged Laoli's arm. "Damn it. Just for your sake, old Yan, ask the shelter, who dares to talk to me in this tone?" Old Lee pushed Zhu Chenkei away and cursed. "Yes, I have the ability to kill monsters, but if I have to do everything myself, then am I the owner of the shelter or a nanny?" Zhu Chenkei's face turned pale. Old Yan scolded, "Why don't you apologize to old Lee quickly?" Zhu Chenkei turned his head away and muttered in a low voice, "Why? I'm not wrong. If he had taken action earlier, we wouldn't have lost so many people. They are all brothers who have been with us all the way." Old Lee showed a hint of sarcasm at the corner of his mouth, but he was not angry because he saw himself a few months ago in Zhu Chenkei, and he was no different from Zhu Chenkei at that time. Later, it was proved that in the end times, being a saint has no benefits, except dragging yourself down. Take a half-hour break, then go pick up the cards. It's still the same old rule. Anyone who dares to hide them will be killed without mercy. Boss Yan was stunned for a moment, and asked cautiously, "Boss Lee, how do you distribute the seized cards?" "The cards are all handed over to me, and then I distribute them." "Isn't that what every shelter does?" Old Lee looked strange. Boss Yan groaned, and for a moment he didn't know how to refute. "How did you distribute them before?" Old Lee asked. Boss Yan hesitated for a moment and said, "Everyone can pick up cards freely and see who has better luck." Old Lee was happy. "Oh, then it seems that you should have good luck. Hey, have you learned some skills or talents that can see the quality of the spoils, boss?" Yan was obviously a little flustered when his secret was revealed. "No, no such thing. Don't be afraid. This is not something shameful." Old Lee pinched his chin. "Let me guess again. Your talent should be the color card talent battlefield scavenger, right?" His boss Yan took a breath. "This chapter is not finished. Click on the next chapter to continue reading chapter 97 Scavengers and the Mysterious Team." His eyes were bigger than copper bells. What's wrong with you? Hey, I really guessed it." Old Lee put his arm around Boss Yan's shoulder. "Come, help me see where there are color cards." "Okay." Boss Yan sighed. A light flashed in his pupils and shook his head and said, "There are no color cards, but there are quite a few gold cards concentrated over there. Battlefield Scavenger. This is a pretty awesome auxiliary talent. Through mental communication." Qin Lang was very excited when he learned that Boss Yan had this talent. In this apocalypse, where cards are everything, Battlefield Scavenger is definitely a phantom god level talent, because this talent can not only see the color of the cards in the corpse, but also some cards left in the building can be discovered through this talent. I think I'm very suitable for this talent. Ding Yuan took the initiative to apply to learn. "No, you are not suitable. The job of a garbage man should be done by a man." "Well, it's better for me to do it." Qin Lang refused without thinking, causing Ding Yuan to roll her eyes wildly. Zhu Yan laughed out loud, and while comforting Ding Yuan, he said, "If Boss Yan knew that his talent was reserved by us, he would be so angry that he would die." That's right, the talent of the phantom god level is for those with virtue, and his fighting power is simply not enough to control it. Qin Lang looked at the corpses on the ground, and then looked at the huge fire nest and the flames. There are too few mushroom ammunition, so I won't do anything today. Go home, and come back to clean it up later. Agreed. After cleaning up the battlefield, a group of people sat on the back of Zhu Yun, who had transformed into a giant bear, and ran all the way back to the shelter. What Qin Lang didn't know was that not long after they left point, a dozen men and women appeared near the fire nest point. Their bodies were covered with a layer of azure light. U003 CBR/U003. A woman with a veil covering her face and holding a staff walked out of the queue, waved her staff, and drew a circle towards the fire nest. And the scene in the nest was immediately reflected in the circle. Disperse. The screen disappeared, and she turned to a woman and said, "Sister, the monster inside has a combat power of 17, and is a fire demon king. The one who killed the monsters on the outside should be the nearby shelter with average strength, otherwise they would not stay. Don't kill the leader." When the woman with only her eyes exposed heard the words, she glanced at everyone, and seemed to be hesitant. "Sister, you have to let me kill you, no matter what you say this time." The boy wearing goggles in the team said anxiously, Hey, why do you have to kill him? Why? Sister, let me do it. If I can't kill this fire demon king in 15 minutes, I will chop off the head and make it a chamber pot for you. The man is very tall and powerful, and can be estimated to be 2 meters tall. I only need 10 minutes. The boy with goggles yelled. The woman who was obviously the leader smiled lightly and said, Okay, you two, stop fighting. Xiaoding, go ahead. I only give you 10 minutes. Yes, big sister is the best. The boy with goggles was ecstatic and jumped up. While his body was still in the air, a large piece of lightning suddenly burst out from his body, and he immediately plunged into the fire nest. Sister, are you still worried about that person? Let me tell you something you don't want to hear. If he is as ordinary as you describe, there is no way he can survive to the 3rd stage. The 1st stage may be. Shut up. The leader woman lowered her voice and shouted, You know I don't like hearing it, so stop talking. He must not be dead. I feel that way. Sister, I've done it. A boy in goggles surrounded by lightning walked out of the fire nest carrying a rather large monster head, holding the core of the fire nest in his other hand. Well, let's go to Jinghe. Chapter 98 Dual Swordsman. Shelter. Introduce a few people to me. Bossly, what do you mean? Is there anyone else in the shelter that I don't know? Boss Yan had a surprised expression on his face. Zhu Chenke raised his head and looked over after hearing this. Of course, I'm the boss of the shelter, but the people who live there are my boss. Laoli raised his hand and pointed to a small house behind him. The boy named Zhu can come too. Zhu. Chenke said warily, What on earth do you want to do? Do you want to kill people and steal goods? Laoli was so amused that he laughed loudly. You are bigger than me. If I really wanted to kill you, I would have done it long ago. I have to wait until now. It's the boss who wants to see you. While they were talking here, the door of N's cabin suddenly opened, and Qin Lang came out with a smile on his shirtless body, and wearing a pair of flashy beach pants. Boss Yan, I'm so sorry, I've been a little busy these days, and haven't had the chance. You shouldn't blame me when I see you. By the way, my name is Qin Language. Boss Yan frowned. Are you the boss here? Then who is Boss Lee? Laoli is my brother, my right-hand man, and he is in charge of everything outside. Qin Lang glanced at Zhu Chenke and said with a smile, If you want to test my combat power, just test it. There is no need to be so sneaky. A trace of embarrassment flashed across Zhu Chenke's face, but he still pressed the combat power detector. His Zhu Chenke took a breath and lowered his voice and said, Boss, this person has a combat power of 11. Boss. Yan swallowed and quickly raised his hands. Boss Qin. Come in, drink tea and chat. Qin Lang took the 3 people into Anhu. This An's hut is actually a colorful prop. I always thought it was just an ordinary building. Boss Yan looked around carefully. The temperature in An's hut was just right, neither cold nor hot. There are so many mushrooms. It turns out that these mushrooms are all from Boss Qin. Planted. Sit. Qin Lang asked a few people to sit down and took out the tea leaves while brewing, chatting about home affairs at first. Boss Yan and ZHU Chen K were a little nervous, but as the exchange deepened, they found that Qin Lang did not give off a condescending feeling. Instead, he spoke in a moderate and humorous manner, and they couldn't help but relax their vigilance. ZHU Chen K said, "Boss Qin, just tell us what we are going to do. I don't like people who talk in roundabout ways, boss." Yan glared at him. "Chen K, why are you talking to Boss Qin?" "Fine, Qin." Lang laughed it off and said, "I just want to get to the point here. Lin. Wanna," wearing a sexy swimsuit, took out the panel mirror from the room. ZHU Chen K was stunned for a moment and said in surprise, Lin Wanna? Are you the one who acted in the TV series?" Lin Wanna smiled sweetly and said, "I have indeed acted in some TV dramas. Let's talk. I will go into the room first." After saying that, Lin Wanna turned around and entered the house. Boss Yan focused his attention on the panel mirror and frowned slightly. His intuition told him that this mirror was probably not a good thing. This is called a panel mirror. Its function is to help people reshape their skills and talents. Qin Lang returned to the subject. After introducing the functions of the panel mirror, he said with a smile, "I can carry out targeted enhancements based on your preferences and expertise. Don't worry about the cards. I will take care of them." Boss Yan groaned and said, "Zio ZHU and I are both good at close combat. I'm Zio ZHU swordsmanship teacher." It turns out that Boss Yan before the apocalypse was a professional. This chapter is not finished. Click the next chapter to continue reading chapter 98, Dual Swordsman the Kendo Teacher. In order to enable student ZHU Chen K to perform well in the Kendo public exhibition competition, specially gave him small tutoring lessons. As a result, the apocalypse came and trapped them together. It is precisely because the two of them have enough fighting experience that they can survive all the way and survive until now. Then, I understand. I will give each of you 15 swordsman gold cards as a core, which is just enough for you to upgrade to LV4. For other auxiliary cards, I will give you LV2, LV3. Qin Lang magically took out a large pile of gold cards from the storage space. There were hundreds of them. Boss Yan and ZHU Cheng were dumbfounded. They had never seen so many gold cards in their lives. "Boss Qin, do you trust us so much? Aren't you afraid that we will take your card and run away?" Boss Yan swallowed hard. "It's not that I trust you, but that I trust my own strength. Just a few dozen gold cards. What are they? I have so many. Besides, the weather is so hot. Where can you go? Where can I be? It's comfortable, with plenty of mung bean soup and ice cream, and everything you need to cool down." Qin Lang picked through the gold cards without raising his head when he spoke. It's not like he's showing off. He's a bit disdainful of color cards, let alone gold cards. Boss Qin is really powerful. Boss Yan gave a thumbs up and sincerely praised him. "By the way, Boss Yan, there is something I have to tell you in advance. From this moment on, you are my people. I will cover your food, drink, and upgrades, but from this moment on, you must work hard for me. If you dare to think of betraying me," Qin Lang paused and said with a smile, "the consequences will be very tragic. Don't dare." Boss Yan and ZHU Chen K shook their heads repeatedly. "Okay, Boss Yan, please come over here. Boss Qin, call me by my name, just name it Yanbin." 20 minutes later, Yanbin and ZHU Chen K both walked out of Anhat. Their expressions were very happy. They all clearly felt that, although the combat power value dropped, the combat effectiveness was greatly improved. The panel mirror directly stripped away those miscellaneous skills and talents, allowing all their current skills to produce a positive chain effect. The only pity is the battlefield scavenger, but in the future, all cards picked up must be turned in. It makes no difference if you have the skill or not. Yanbin was inevitably worried about gains and losses. "Boss, I always feel that we have been fooled." ZHU Chen K lowered his voice, "and I'm sure that Boss Lee deliberately led his brothers to die today." Yanbin sighed. "Do you think I can't see that this is a personnel optimization plan? They actually only want you and me, and they wish everyone else would die. But you can't blame Boss Qin for this. After all, this is the end of the world. Resources are limited." "Don't say this again. It's not good to be heard." To be honest, I'm a little afraid of Boss Qin. Zhu Chenkei shrank, a typical smiling tiger. Yan Bin shook his head helplessly. I told you to stop talking. Why are you still talking nonsense? At this time, Qin Lang came over, took the ice mushroom directly from Zhu Chenkei's hand, and helped him change it with a smile. The ice mushroom I gave you earlier had bugs in it, but this one doesn't. Aha. Yan and Zhu's expressions changed wildly, point tapping. So, wouldn't all their interactions be with each other? Qin Lang smiled and said, by the way, I'm not a smiling tiger. I'm a famous sunny and cheerful boy. Chapter 99 Important information. Our shelter has not taken the initiative to go hunting since the intense heat, and we do not have the strength to kill the leader. Oh. So, there are other shelters near us. There were 3 of them in the past, but they were all destroyed. Wang muttered in his heart, smiled and raised his hand. Boss, please come in and chat. It's too hot outside. Qin Lang nodded and walked in. All the natives of the sanctuary who saw them had deep awe and envy in their eyes. Qin Lang had a relaxed expression on his face and turned a blind eye to those eyes. With his current strength, he really didn't need to take this small light shelter seriously. Needless to say, he, Laoli or Young could kill the shelter. Several people sat down in a stone room at Wang's greeting. This was one of the few rooms in the shelter with air conditioning. Normally Wang wouldn't bother with it, as the silver card battery had long been exhausted. Based on the information I currently have, there is no other shelter nearby except ours. However, 3 days ago, a group of people did come. They were very scary, and their average combat power was above 1. I guess they were killed. The leader of the fire nest. What? The average combat power is above 1, Qin Lang's movement stagnated. Real or false? Wang said, I will never lie to anyone. I can't describe the strength they showed. It has completely exceeded my understanding of strength. The weakest one among them can easily kill me instantly. Is there any surveillance or portraits of this group of people? Qin Lang was very concerned. Characters who can strengthen themselves to the level of Wanzan or above in the 3rd stage are definitely rare, especially if the opponent or the entire team is Wanzan. It sounds like a fantasy. Someone in their team has mastered the relevant skills, and the surveillance photos showed they are all mosaics. In order to prove what he said, Wang took out the photos. Sure enough, each picture was full of mosaics, and only some blurred figures could be seen. Do they have any characteristics? In terms of characteristics, they are quite obvious. There is a man named Chanshan who is a giant, 2 meters tall. There is also a young man named Dingli who wears goggles, and there is a female magician named Zixuan who uses a blue staff. Oh, by the way, the leader of this team is a woman, not tall, and her face is covered with a gauze scarf. Wang knows everything, and talks about everything. Have they told you where they plan to go next? That's not true, but the woman mentioned Jinghe and Changteng. She said that, if you want to live longer in the end of the world, you must go to the big cities to find opportunities. Not only are they rich in materials, but there are also many monsters. As long as you have the ability, you will not have to worry. You can't earn resources. If you're lucky, it's not impossible to become a god overnight. Kaioke, Nagato. Qin Lang nodded. How could he, who had repeatedly survived for so long in the apocalypse, not know the information about these big cities? In previous lives, there were even peerless strong men who established large strongholds in these big cities that could accommodate 10,000 people, or even 100,000 people. Watch out for natural enemies. The enemy who killed Feng Xiaoni and him in the previous life was a subordinate of a certain boss of a large stronghold with 100,000 people. Thank you for telling me so much, Qin Lang calmed down. Maybe it's time to go to the big city and have a try. You're welcome. It's our fate to meet each other in the last days. Is there anything else I can help you with? Wang's cautious look deeply impressed Qin language. Being cautious is a way to save his life. I want to trade with your shelter. Chapter 100 The Second Apostle. Second, let them perform meritorious deeds and give them the opportunity to become stronger and cross-class. The choice is yours. They have all bullied you. I'm not qualified to forgive them on your behalf. Sun Yan stared blankly at the serious man beside her. If it were you, brother Qin, would you choose one or two? I should choose two. Qin Lang smiled and said, after all, they still contribute to the shelter. Needless to say, the female students. The male students can clean the battlefield instead of the soldiers, which saves a lot of time and effort. Then I will choose two. Sun Yan said without thinking. I actually stopped being angry a long time ago. They have suffered enough in the past few months. Okay, since you chose two, these cards will be handed over to you, and you will hand them over in Qin Lang's transaction list this time. There is a considerable number of blue and green enhancement cards. Although these cards can slightly improve a person's physical fitness, they do little to help a person's growth. They are mainly for those in the shelter, who do not need to go out. Used for combat labor. This was also the card used most by Qin Lang in his previous life point. To paraphrase the words of the former shelter bosses, you don't need to go out to fight. It's enough if your body can withstand the apocalyptic climate and support the daily work. I know what to do. Sun Yan nodded and walked towards the crowd in the corner. When the students saw Sun Yan coming, they all hurriedly knelt on the ground, not daring to look at her at all. From this moment on, you are no longer slaves. You will regain your human status. One day half a month later, Qin Lang put down the military telescope. He had already seen the apostle. No wonders he accidentally mentioned it. There was no need to worry about how to identify the apostles. Each apostle was highly recognizable. 003 CBR/U003. They are dressed in uniform and have the same limbs as humans, with the only difference being the head. Qin Lang killed the octopus monster before, but the one in front of him is a monster with a head like a sunflower and a round face full of narrow eyes. This shape is good at mental attacks. Combat power of 19,000 is a bit scary. Qin Lang muttered and silently took out the mental defense gold card from the storage space to upgrade himself. Key Refiner only has a strong resistance to mental attacks, which does not mean that he can completely ignore such attacks. If he really encounters a perverted mental attacker, he may not even know how to die. Chenzu, help me add the aura. You two stay and protect Chenzu. I'll go meet it first. Okay, you must be careful. Lin Wana and Sun Yan nodded heavily and came to Chenzu's side. Qin Lang held a cold ice mushroom and carefully touched the sunflower. When he entered the attack range, Qin Lang threw the cold ice mushroom silently. The sunflower monster seemed to be a little slow in reaction. When it looked up, the ice mushroom had already reached its feet. The next second, snap, the biting cold froze it. Supreme slash. Qin Lang didn't make a move, but if he did, it would be a killing move. Swish. The sunflower monster was completely annihilated in the dazzling light. Is this the end? Qin Lang couldn't believe his eyes, but he immediately realized that something was wrong. He turned around and saw two sunflower monsters in front of him. They were almost identical, staring at him with a stupid look, which made Qin Lang feel creepy. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.